7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
A very good afternoon to you as we welcome you on into Rochester's only local sports talk show. Welcome into the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, we're glad you're with us to start another week of fantastic sports talk here in the Flower City. Thanks for listening along at 95.7 FM, AM 950, the free-to-download Odyssey app, and our stream, which is up and rolling for you every afternoon from 3 until 6. You can watch us live on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester. I'm Danger, that's Battaglia.
You, sir, are a true professional. Just as the welcome to the sport, as that music's rolling, in walks Danger, puts on his headphones, turns on the mic, go.
I don't have a choice, do I?
No.
There's no choice. Yeah, got to show up, got to be a pro.
Like if the sales managers are like, yep, you hang up.
I can't. I'm on a Zoom. All right, peek behind the curtain. I'm on a Zoom. Mentioned last week how they've given me more responsibilities behind the scenes here and beyond the sports bar. I know you don't really care about that, but those responsibilities now stretch into New Orleans. I'm working with our stations in New Orleans, and so I got a request for a Zoom, and I should have said no to the request because I knew it was going to do this. Like 2:45, we'll be quick. We've got an idea, and I normally I'd be like, no, and I'm like, all right, well, it's new. They don't know. I'm sure it won't be more than, I'll make it 10 minutes. 10 minutes tops, and I'll have time to get down to the sports bar and get on the air on time. And, I even said to them, like, guys, I got to jump. I'm on the air in 5 minutes. And they're like, okay, one more thing. I'm like, I got to go. So finally, I got out with, 2 seconds to spare? I think I was 2 seconds before I turned on the mic. It was in the studio. So we're here, and we got a lot to get to this afternoon on the Fan Rochester. An unbelievable, memorable weekend of sports to talk about.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was something we can certainly still talk about. What did you experience on Sunday? And a couple guests we're inviting on today, one being a golf expert, one being a guy like you and I who likes golf a lot, and he was just live tweeting it, but he also covers the Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, okay, you know what? This might be a little different and a little fun. RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys, SB Nation, does a fantastic job. And the Cowboys, of course, they're interesting at number 12. Does Jerry move up? What if Shedeur Sanders falls to number 12? What is the Cowboy plan in this draft? And then also, he was live tweeting about the Masters. I'm like, let's talk some golf with RJ. That's coming up in the 4 o'clock hour.
And it's relevant, too. The Cowboys actually today begin their off-season work. They have a new head coach in Schottenheimer. So, and one of the storylines that we've been following all off-season is, what about Micah Parsons and his new deal? Well, Micah Parsons, he's showing up for the off-season program. He's there on day one of the off-season program, even though he's yet to receive that contract extension. So, yeah, good time to have RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys on, our buddy, joining us in the 4 o'clock hour. And joining us later this hour to recap everything from the Masters, Brian Koziel, the host of Tee to Green.
Who's also your host for the Buffalo Sabres radio network. I'm going to guess that you might have missed. It was at 6 o'clock yesterday. The Sabres were in Tampa. True Francesa, if there ever was. And mind you, we carry the games.
Francesa.
Who cares?
Yeah, right. And poor Brian has to be, concerned with Sabre giveaways and, giving you all the stats and everything. But, certainly he he went back and watched it all. Brian Koziel, he hosted Tee to Green. We'll get his thoughts on the Masters and what an eventful day it was.
It really was. So there you go. That's the lineup for this afternoon. You can also pull up a stool and join us anytime this afternoon on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line, 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street in East Rochester, goodsmokebbq.com. We'll also have, I believe we have Breaking Benjamin tickets to give away today.
We do, yes.
Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, September 17th, Darien Lake Amphitheater. We'll have those free tickets for you before 6 o'clock this evening as well. The table is set.
I had mixed emotions watching Rory do that. I don't know how it was in your house, but as he's lining up the first time after all that had happened, I just turned to the executive producer. I'm like, do you want him to make this or miss this? Miss it. And she said, miss it. And then you had the evil, ha! So it was an event danger where my daughter does not like sports whatsoever, and she was pulled in. Such a human interest story, whether it was seeing what was happening to Rory, or on the other end, you have guys like Justin Rose just being like a machine, just climbing back up the leaderboard.
Right. It was going into Sunday, you knew it could be a special day when you had DeChambeau and Rory in the final pairing, especially when you consider what happened at the U.S. Open. So the drama was high. It was there. It was ready. It was teed up, and it didn't disappoint. DeChambeau disappointed a little bit in falling off, but Rory, as he had been throughout the course of the weekend, kind of all over the place, but making unbelievable shots when he absolutely needed the unbelievable shot. Rose, you mentioned it, just a machine. I would say that for the course of the weekend, Rose was the better golfer. He was more consistent. It was just Rory making these amazing shots when he needed to make these shots, and I think all of that led to the emotion, the uncontrollable emotion that he showed when he actually won the whole thing. You could forget about the 11 other times that he tried to complete the career Grand Slam. I think this one was grueling for him to scratch and claw and to make the shots that he made when he needed to make them. It was special, and my house wasn't too different than your house. I mean, look, why would you root against Rory? He's kind of like our adopted son, right? Well, we also kind of have heard rumors, and we know that there was a little bit of a problem last year.
Yeah, those rumors were actual real reports, and we don't need to kind of dive into that, but I feel like this nationally was, hey, Rory, we love you, and wow, what would this be like? It would be like, well, when the Cubs won the World Series. This would be like when the Bills won the Super Bowl. Like, that's how people, and that's fine. That's all well and good, but here in Rochester, and you would figure kind of not an adopted hometown, but a guy who was planted roots, and we're like, yeah, mixed emotions. I'm not going to lie watching that.
I thought I was going to have mixed emotions as well. And all along, I'm like, oh, my God. When he missed the putt on 18 to force the playoff, I'm like, he's a choke artist. This guy's never – this is unbelievable. He's doing it again. He's going to choke again. And then for him to pull it off in the first playoff hole, you see, again, like the emotion that this guy said. I went from saying this guy's a choke artist to me, myself, being emotional, seeing his reaction, his true, real, visceral reaction to actually winning the tournament. I got emotional. I got choked up. And I don't have any skin in the game. And I've been, as you have, Gene, we've been kind of critical of this guy. We poke fun. We're like, yeah, you can't do that to Rochester royalty. Erica's one of us. She's from here. You can't cheat on her. You can't have an extramarital affair. You can't have a relationship that's on the rocks with Rochester royalty. Allegedly. But I would say that everybody gets a second chance. Winning is one hell of a deodorant. Where would any of us be if we didn't have that second chance? And while you might have your thoughts, the executive producer and Sandy parked their cars in the same garage. Sandy was the entire time I'm watching. She's like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I don't like him. I'm like, look, you don't have to like the person, but what he just accomplished is worthy of recognition. And to see his reaction and to see the embrace afterwards with his daughter, who we were thinking about last year at this time. Like, I got a little choked up. I got a little emotional. Not as emotional as I did when Tiger won. When Tiger won, different kind of emotion, but I still felt something watching the Masters yesterday.
I felt the same way when Phil Mickelson busted through because danger. He had all these wayward chances, like hitting a hospitality tent one year at the U.S. Open. I mean, he was the guy that could never win a major, and then finally one Sunday, an Easter Sunday, and his daughters came out, and Daddy won it. And it's like, wow. And now, as time goes on, there's things about Phil, like, like you get to know these guys, and like, all right, maybe,
right.
Yeah.
I think that the whole thing about any professional athlete is be careful. I mean, like, your heroes aren't really the most desirable human beings on the planet. These guys have their demons. And I think a lot of we talked about this last week too, like a lot of them have a dark side, and that dark side is part of what makes them the competitors that they are. They have to have that dark side. They need to know how to tap into it in the moments where they need to be ruthless and cutthroat and kill their opponent in order to win. And like to hear Bryson DeChambeau say yesterday that Rory didn't even speak to him yesterday. Didn't even say a word to him yesterday during their final round. Like, all right, either he's a gigantic a-hole or he's so dialed in, he's tapping into that dark side knowing I'm going to need that if I'm going to win on Masters Sunday.
I have no problem with that whatsoever. None. And it was actually, you can't have it both ways because there's video going around of DeChambeau needling Rory on the driving range about giving away the U.S. Open. So, yeah, like, Rory's like, okay, we're going to do that. I don't need to talk to you. And, like, so there's two sides to that story. For me, for Rory, you're saying, what was it, on 18? I thought, oh, my gosh, this guy is sabotaging himself, and he doesn't even realize it on 13. Now, mind you, okay, a lot of people know more about golf than I do, but you're on 13 where they have the pin set up right next to the water hazard. Don't take that chance. Lay up. You've got a 4-stroke lead. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's a choke job right there, Danger. That's stupid. Like, it's one thing to miss a putt because, well, it happens.
Dude, started with a double bogey. I mean, his round could have been disastrous the way it started. Like, again, I think that's why you got the reaction that you got out of him is because of what you're describing on 13, what happened to him on hole 1. It wasn't easy. His entire weekend was a roller coaster ride, and we love it. Well, that's what we love. We love the ride. We love the ups and the downs. That's what made it memorable. That's what made it a great tournament and what makes him a great champion. The fact that he overcame all of these adversities and still found a way to pull it off in the end.
I mean, it wasn't just Rory. Like, Rose hitting that putt on 18. Okay.
Money.
Yeah, I'm going to, this might set it up for sure. You know who finished third?
Ugh.
Patrick Reed. That jerk hitting an eagle on the fly there. And thankfully, we didn't have to deal with that guy in a playoff.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't have been fun. Yeah, it was a memorable Masters Sunday. And for as much as we kind of poke fun at the hoity-toity nature of Augusta, and it is elite. It is a great product. When you're talking about consuming it on a Sunday, if you're a casual golf fan, that's the one that can pull you in. If you've never swung a golf club in your life and you see the Masters like you saw yesterday, I have a feeling that's good for the game, that people would be like, yeah, I'm not really into golf, but that was great. I have casual golf fan friends who admitted, like, oh, I started at 2:30 because I wanted to see DeChambeau versus Rory, and I stayed for the whole thing. Like, the ratings on this have to be, I would imagine these are record-breaking ratings that we're going to see.
I mean, the debate was that the best Masters ever? Now, Tiger in 2019 was pretty special.
That's the one that I always kind of think about. I mean, and for those of you that have been around a long time, I know that you could, draw back to the days of Jack and some of the Masters that he pulled off. But man, Tiger winning in 2019 for me will be the memorable one, more so than any of the other Tiger Masters championships or Phil or anything, just because I think we all wrote him off.
That is true. I'm also going to give you my take on this, that when we always thought what this world would look like post-Tiger, we're already there. He wasn't on the course. He will never be on the course in a competitive nature, you wouldn't think, anymore. The sport is doing just fine, Danger. Mm-hmm. And part of this is not just the Masters. I got to tip my cap to CBS. I mean, could you cover an event any better than the way CBS did? And part of it, too, is...
Don't give credit to CBS. Give credit to the Masters.
The Masters,
That's right.
The Masters saying, all right, you are going to do this for free. The way it works, if you're not familiar, okay? The Masters only allows X number of sponsors. IBM, which I still don't understand that commercial from yesterday with the birthday cake and whatever. But whatever. So you only have X number of sponsors, and they will pay CBS. And they will also pay the Masters. So CBS doesn't bill anything directly, okay? That's why there are so few commercials. CBS doesn't get to sell those commercials directly. That's why you don't see, hey, here's your leaderboard brought to you by Verizon or whatever it is.
Right.
You see none of that. The Masters
It's clean.
controls everything. And to the point where, gosh, wouldn't it be refreshing to watch an event like that without your cell phone?
Oh,
I mean,
in person.
In person.
Yeah. Not a cell phone to be seen. I think the product is as good as any sports product out there. I mean, when we first started doing this show, you thought I was a soccer guy, and the reality was I enjoyed watching soccer because it was consumable. It was easily consumable. You could watch for 45 minutes straight of action, unless you consider guys flopping action. That you could watch it without commercials. And it was easy to consume product. You're in and you're out in about 2.5 hours. And while the Masters is a longer affair than that, 4 minutes of commercials an hour. I mean, and you're basically getting fed the same messaging from the same sponsors. It's an easy to consume product. It looks great. It sounds great. Their production is flawless. They move from hole to hole and golfer to golfer and shot to shot. And that's the Masters does it right. I wish other majors would take a page out of what the Masters does as far as its TV presentation, because it would make all of them that much. Now, I know they're all in the business to make money, obviously, but it would make all of them that much more accessible and consumable, because the Masters is the best thing going as far as golf is concerned on TV. There's nothing even close.
It was great television yesterday, and it will be the one we're comparing to for years and years and years, to the point, Danger, where I wanted to consume more. Like, okay, Butler Cabin, and then I realized, oh, no, it's a little different. We didn't have the drippy kid this year. Like, hey,
where's the amateur that peed in the tributary?
Yes, we part of the tradition here at the Masters is the high amateur, and here it is. Nope, running out of time. I'm like, wow, they're running out of time. They got to tighten this up. And then there's Rory smiling at the end, and all of a sudden they're in the 60 minutes. I'm like, wow, I wanted more.
By the way, I don't know that they've ever done that before. Have they ever done the champion just standing there at the end giving the smile? Because that felt new. And it felt awkward. I don't know that you need that, just the still of Rory smiling awkwardly at the camera wearing his new green jacket.
All right, can you imagine if they did that for others? Like, okay, here's Patrick Reed.
Yeah.
Like other guys doing that. No.
Well, and the thing about Rory that I think, we can also add on to as far as like what the appeal of yesterday was beyond his play, beyond the drama and the theatrics, is Rory is a personality. Right, he's been in the game now long enough, and he's said things enough times, and we know his stance on enough things to know, all right, he's one of the personalities of the sport. And golf needs that, right? Like you say, golf is in a good place when you've got guys like Rory, DeChambeau, Brooks Koepka. Scotty Scheffler, to me, as great a golfer as he is so milquetoast. I don't think he does anything for interest in the game. But Rory, I think, does. When you see DeChambeau going through the crowd and giving everybody fist bumps, that matters. DeChambeau, spends time on his online profile, and his online persona is a lot of fun. Like, he'll spend time doing videos and different things, sharing things to his social media to engage an audience that's frankly a lot younger than you and I, Gina. So I think the game is in good shape, and they've done a good job adapting because of these different personalities that are relevant and that are making their way, to those leaderboards come Saturday and Sunday. And Rory, now can say that he's one of 6. The career Grand Slam is his, and for as much as we've wanted to see who the heir apparent to Tiger is, nobody will ever be what Tiger was, just like I don't think anybody could ever be what Jack was, right? Like, every era has their guy, and I don't know that Rory is this era's guy, but to be one of 6 in this sport, to have the career Grand Slam now under his belt, even though it took him 11 tries, I'll put him right up there.
Well, the best golfer in the game today is Scheffler, and he will be a Grand Slam winner. But the biggest personality is Rory. The guy that is probably the most loved in golf today is Rory, and just the way that kind of unfolded. This does mean one thing officially for us here in the sports bar. There is no more masterstroke.
You're right.
My first dark horse, and he's not really a dark horse, I think he's the favorite, is Rory.
Do we officially retire? Rory can't be a dark horse, even a favorite, even if he's a favorite.
Yeah.
He won it. He won
My
it.
first dark horse. He's not really a dark horse. He's the favorite. What?
Oh, the master stroke is aging out of the sports bar.
Yeah.
It's aging out of the sports bar. The master stroke greatest hits aren't as timely as they used to be. They're losing their relevance with each passing day, with each passing tournament, with each passing championship. That's a bummer.
My first dark horse, and he's not really a dark horse, I think he's the favorite, is Rory.
And he also got the Tiger prediction right. That when he thought the year that Tiger won, he thought Tiger was going to win, and Tiger won. I'm like, okay, well, that's why we don't have him on anymore. We don't want him in here if he's going to be right all the time. Nobody cares. We got to get to Brian Koziel. We'll continue our Masters conversation here. He is the host of Tee to Green. You can hear it in the free-to-download Odyssey app, where you can also hear Brian on the in the Odyssey app at WGR, our Odyssey Sports sister station, and on the Buffalo Sabres radio network. Always good to have the pride of Brockport on with us, Brian Koziel, who joins us next. You can join us anytime this afternoon at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Tell it to play 95.7 The Fan and watch it become your personal sports commentator. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
The talk of sports, Rory McIlroy completing the Grand Slam at Augusta National, winning his first green jacket.
It's a dream come true. I've dreamt about that moment for as long as I can remember. Just a complete roller coaster of a day. It's been 14 long years, but thankfully I got the job done.
We'll talk some Masters coming up next. Brian Koziel, your host at Tee to Green, also the Buffalo Sabres radio network. Brian joins us next. All the action in the majors under the lights tonight, including the Yankees, who send Carlos Carrasco to the mound in Kansas City. The Mets are in Minnesota. The Rochester Red Wings begin a series tomorrow night at home against Worcester. The NBA regular season has ended today. Some firings of Phoenix Suns moving on from head coach Mike Budenholzer. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Welcome back to the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia still basking in the afterglow of Rory McIlroy winning the Masters yesterday in dramatic fashion. We welcome in our buddy, the host of Tee to Green and the Odyssey app, WGR in Buffalo and the Buffalo Sabres radio network. The pride of SUNY Brockport, it is Brian Koziel back in the Sports Bar. Brian, a roller coaster of a ride for Rory McIlroy and his supporters throughout the course of the weekend, but he gets that career Grand Slam. How are you today, bud?
I'm great. What a great final round. What a great Masters tournament it was over the course of 4 days. Super memorable. One of the best of my lifetime for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Brian, and we all acknowledge recency bias, but like if that wasn't the best Masters of all time, and you're also kind of a historian, what other ones would you say, okay, would be right up there with it?
Yes, the recency bias, asking me today, you feel like, yes, that was incredible. It was exhausting. It was exhilarating. If you were rooting for Rory, the amount of mood swings you had during the course of that day yesterday was wild. Other thoughts on the other Masters, 2019.
Yeah.
5-way tie for the lead, including Tiger Woods, with 4 holes to go. Pretty amazing. And the leaderboard of guys that were tied with Woods at 12 under at that point with 4 to go. You had Koepka, you had DJ, you had Molinari, you had Schauffele, you had Woods. You had 5 major winners, all with a chance to win. And then, of course, Tiger's the one that rises above them all. Like, pretty special. I wasn't old enough to watch the 86 Jack Nicklaus one that, everybody says is right there at the top. But I feel like a lot of comparisons have been made that the 2019 Tiger one, it's his final one. He comes back and coming off of, for Tiger, injury and a long-term wait and or hiatus from winning majors. Same with Nicklaus. So 86 and 2019, I feel like were very, very similar. I know just watching highlights and, hearing about other Masters, the 1975 one is one that I know a lot of people always bring up. Where Nicklaus and Weiskopf and Johnny Miller are all 3 of them going at it, and Nicklaus pulls it out at the end. I know a lot of people have said that one is really good. I mean, the 97 Masters where Tiger wins by 12 and really stamps kind of his mark on, hey, golf world, like I'm here, I've arrived, I've risen to the biggest stage here and won on the biggest stage in golf. Like, that was kind of the coronation of Tiger and what his era was going to be all about. In terms of the competitiveness and the lead swings and the storylines that we're developing, I got to think that this year is maybe, I think it's an easy argument for top 3 all time. It just had so many good layers. The fact that someone was going for the Grand Slam, the fact that it went to a playoff, the fact that you had a guy that was winning in DeChambeau early on that ultimately was even a non-factor in the end. You had Rose get into there. You had Aubert get into there. And then, of course, the whole time, McIlroy up and down, the yo-yo day of him. Terrible start, back into the lead. Looks like he's pulling away.
Rose, I mean, at least the most consistent because of how up and down Rory's game was. It just felt like when Rory needed to make the miraculous shot time and time again through the course of the tournament, he pulled it off.
He did. I mean, I was on WGR this morning and somebody said, like, what was the shot of the day for McIlroy? And I spent 2 minutes describing about 6 shots. He was just, every time you felt like, okay, he needs a shot, he came through. I mean, the shot on 15 where he's kind of up against some tree area and he has to shape it around to be able to answer Rose there, that was really, really impressive. Rose does what he always does. If you are a Ryder Cup watcher, you know Justin Rose, anytime there's that like medium to medium long length putt that you're sitting here saying like, man, maybe he could make this, and he makes it every time, and he does that fist pump, and it's just like, okay, that's the guy. When you're rooting for USA against Europe, he always seems to be the guy that comes through and make that clutch putt. He did it on 18 yesterday. I mean, Rose has to be sitting there thinking, man, if round 3 just wasn't such a hiccup for me, he would have probably won easily. And now to have lost twice in a playoff, that's got to be pretty tough for him. I know maybe yesterday, because he came from so far back, there may have been a little thought from Rose of like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe I got to a playoff kind of thing. I wonder if he was closer, it would have been maybe a little bit more disappointing for him. And look, Justin Rose has been around for a long time. He knows what McIlroy's win means. Super classy, not a surprise at all in terms of how he handled losing and understood what Rory's win meant for the golf landscape. I'm sure he, of course, would have wanted to win that, and I'm sure he's disappointed that he didn't. But Rose didn't lose it, in my opinion. Rory won it. I mean, Rose played that last hole very good and gave himself a great opportunity to make a birdie. So, I think what you're saying about Rose playing great, he was definitely the best golfer of the day on the course yesterday for sure. He handled the final round pressure better than anybody.
Brian, I don't know if we've ever had also your Masters champion just kind of bottom out at some points that we're, okay, it's falling apart. Certainly everybody watching one, you look at social media, oh, no, this isn't happening, and he gets it together. My question's about 13. Was that more of a, hey, I'm not executing the shot here, or was that just a reckless decision, in your opinion, what Rory did there?
Yeah, I wonder, I mean, ultimately, did he just mishit it? I mean, he said his strategy, because he had the lead of laying up and going for it with a wedge into the green. You wonder if maybe his lead wasn't what it was. If he hits driver and then, long iron into the green and plays it like he normally would have, it would have been maybe a much better result. I mean, to double that hole that probably on average is less than, on average guys are birdieing it or worst case parring. Like that was a huge drop right there on a hole that you're thinking, okay, he's up big. You birdie here and you might be able to seal it and put it away. And he wasn't able to do it. In fact, he let the field back into it, obviously, at that point. You get in those spots, there's nerves, you're thinking more conservatively, and all of a sudden maybe the shot just doesn't execute like you want. My thought would be, again, if I'm caddying, I am not Rory McIlroy. I'm nowhere at his skill level, but my thought would be, look, let me do what I do well, which is hit this. I played 13 great all week, hitting driver and hitting into the green. I know it's easy to say now because he missed that third shot and it went into the water, but I might have told him, hey, let's just play it like we've played it all week because we've played it great, and why change up the strategy now?
Brian, when we saw how Sunday was going to set up on Saturday evening, knowing that it was going to be Rory and Bryson in the final pairing, I think that was a big part of what made this a great Sunday as well, when you consider the history from last year in the U.S. Open and DeChambeau getting over on Rory. These two, the rivalry between these two, whether it's DeChambeau trash-talking Rory or bringing up the U.S. Open to Rory not talking to DeChambeau, not saying a word to DeChambeau for the entirety of the round yesterday. I mean, talk a little bit about what I believe every sport is better when you have a good rivalry, and this, I think, is actually really, really good for golf long-term.
I agree. Yeah, there was very, very zero discussion between them. I didn't see once on television the two of them exchanging any sort of words. Other than maybe, about, hey, you need me to move my marker or something like that, golf-related, but nothing in terms of any sort of conversation. Just Bryson afterwards said, did you try to engage Rory? And he said, no, he didn't want to talk to me kind of thing. So, and I don't really have a problem with Rory not wanting to talk to Bryson. I mean, what was the motto of Tiger Woods during majors? It was, tunnel vision on. I'm not going to talk to anybody. I'm not going to let my guard down. If that's how Rory felt he had to play to stay focused, I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't mean you have to be a jerk to the other guy in order to make this a, quote, rivalry, but for him to sit there and not say anything and kind of just focus in on his game, that's what he felt was his best strategy. I'm totally fine with it. You definitely have a layer of what happened last year at the U.S. Open. I know some people were upset. Rory didn't stick around and congratulate Bryson afterwards. He just kind of got in his car and bailed afterwards, didn't talk to the media, didn't congratulate DeChambeau after it happened last year. A little different scenario. Last year they weren't playing together. This year they were in the same group, so there was some opportunity maybe for them to have a little bit more of an exchange. But, yeah, I think it's good for golf. Every time we get two guys that we sit here and think like, okay, can these two guys be the next guys that we can watch going forward as a rivalry? And, one being an American, one being a European, there's that layer there too that I think enhances it a little. So I think, these guys, Rory is, even though he's 35, it looks like he feels like he's been here forever. He's still relatively young in terms of possibly having great golf success. He could still be a stud on the tour for the next decade. And DeChambeau's not going to go away in my opinion, because he just won't let himself. He's always trying to figure out that next great way to make himself even better. So I can't see him going away. So we might see these two hooking up quite often in terms of playing in big-time tournaments and big-time events. It is too bad that it only happens 4 times a year that DeChambeau, because he's an entertainer, whether you hate him, whether you like him, whether you feel like, hey, all his content creation is good for golf. He certainly, I think everybody would agree, he is exciting to watch for sure. And he's always got something interesting to say, which is really all we ever ask for anybody in any sport, is give us a reason to watch. And I think Bryson gives us that.
Brian Colsey is your host of Tee to Green. Brian, it's more of an observation than a question, but I always, when we first started these conversations years ago, it would always be the Tiger question, and what do you think of Tiger's chances? Even though, and again, he won in 2019, and I always wondered, Brian, what this sport would look like post-Tiger, and, well, here we kind of are, and Brian, I was always kind of worried, and I'm not worried whatsoever. Give me the next major as soon as possible here. The sport with these personalities pulling a lot of new fans in.
I agree. It's going to be nearly impossible, probably impossible, to duplicate what Tiger Woods brought in terms of eyeballs and a different set of demographics to watching golf. And they've gotten all those people there. But what I think now is you've got a younger generation of golf fans that are in. And whether it's Bryson and his YouTube channel, whether it's Rory and his emotional roller coaster up and down over the last decade here or so, if you've been following that, whether you're a person that has been interested in the live versus PGA Tour thing, there's so many different reasons to tune in. Or even if you just love the kind of, I'll even call it nonchalant, Scotty Scheffler, yeah, I just show up and I'm great kind of mentality. There's that layer too. There's a lot of players that I think people can be excited about watching. The fact that I feel like golf now is in such an age where these players are understanding that the interaction with fans, interacting on social media, pushing out content, being available more to the media, doing all these TGL sort of things like that, hey, it doesn't have to be just the old guy at the country club that we're trying to tailor golf to be. It can be everybody, all different genders, all different ages, all different races. Like, I think a lot more people are locked in on it and realizing how much fun golf can be. So I feel like there's a storyline for everybody to kind of attach onto. So I agree with you. I think golf's in a good spot. Obviously, Tiger moves the needle unlike anybody else, but I don't see it going down to the point where we have to sit here and say, is golf in trouble because Tiger doesn't play regularly anymore?
Brian, along those lines, and this is less about the actual game and more about the presentation, because I think the Masters as a product is next level. It's outstanding. The way they deliver it every year to CBS and the way CBS executes it, the way it is so easily consumable with the limited commercial breaks and everything that goes into the production of the Masters. are there lessons to be learned by the other majors? Can the other majors adopt anything that the Masters does? I know they're all in the business of making money, so the answer is probably no. But I just think that if all of the majors were presented in the same fashion as the Masters is, that golf would even be more widely accepted by the casual fan.
I think you make a great point. The best sports broadcast of the year in any sport is the Masters. It is a huge piece because of that limited commercial interruption. But I also just think the Augusta National members and those that help run this tournament, they have a big hand in essentially saying, look, this is how we want it presented on TV. This is how we want it presented on radio. This is how we want it presented online. This is what can be put out. This is what can't be put out. And I think that it sets a whole different tone. It's amazing how many golfers, even just this past week, commented on the fan engagement, even on the course, because of the no phone policy. I wonder if you'll see other courses or other events maybe try that at one point, or maybe some sort of limited usage of phones. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe they feel like there's money to be made with apps and scoring and buying of merchandise that they don't want to go down that road. The Masters clearly doesn't care. They're like, look, we want to put across the best event possible. We're willing to throw away millions of dollars in terms of advertising and sponsorship. I mean, you go to any other PGA Tour event, there's signage and corporate sponsorships and things, sponsor labels everywhere. You don't see a lick of it at the Masters, which is what I think maybe is alluring to people. It's kind of like, hey, you're loving the sport for the sport, and there's no other distractions at all. I think if broadcasting in itself could grab some of that, I think it would be so much better. I mean, the exact opposite is what we just watched. If you watch March Madness in the NCAA tournament, literally every whistle is a commercial. So it is the exact opposite, and it's tough to watch at times, whereas there's constant action with the Masters. And also, too, I mean, for me being a broadcaster, I appreciate the fact that all these announcers who I think are very good on the CBS broadcast, I think are at their A game during the Masters. And I think a piece of it is that they're pressured not to overtalk and not overanalyze and not have to fill every single second the whole time. It's amazing how just that little tweak and that little maybe just onus on, hey, this is how the Masters wants it. We know CBS in some sense is pressured a little in terms of how they present the broadcast. I think it just comes across wonderfully. I love it, and I wish other sports productions would take a cue and try to take as many elements as possible from how the Masters is presented to us.
Yeah, the bird noises I could,
I like the bird noises.
You like the bird noises?
I'm okay with the bird noises on a cloudy Rochester afternoon. Yes.
Brian Koziel, your host of Tee to Green and the Buffalo Sabres radio network. Brian, forgive me because I'm kind of checked out a little bit on the Sabres. I didn't realize, oh my gosh, there's actually a game, and then I realized, oh my gosh, we're friends with Brian. Like, how were you able to manage, giving the the intermission update and everything else that you got to do during the broadcast while this historic final is going on?
Yes, I very much appreciate the NHL and Tampa and Florida for playing 6 o'clock games on both Saturday and Sunday. I had 2 TVs going, and luckily they were road games. If they were home games, I'd be at the arena. It might have been even tougher to follow the Masters. But I had 2 TVs going, and yes, doing intermissions while the Masters was on, I was doing my best to keep an eye on both. But yeah, the Sabres, unfortunately, this last road trip, whatever sort of maybe, into the off-season momentum or whatever they want to spin it as, feel good about their game has kind of gone away. 3 straight road games with 3 straight losses that have kind of looked like a lot of games that they've struggled this year. Back to poor defensive zone awareness, back to turning over the puck, back to not helping out their goaltender, back to even taking penalties that are unnecessary. I don't know. I wonder if, they have really, really done a good job and fronted themselves as saying, look, even though we're eliminated, we still are focusing on this. We're still focusing on that. We still want to finish strong. We still want to continue to play the right way. I commend them for doing this for the last month when they pretty much have been eliminated. I know officially it wasn't up until last week, but they obviously being in last were done. I thought they did a very good job continuing with that. I'm wondering if it's just they are also maybe in the same boat you guys are of kind of like, all right, this is it. Let's get this season done here so we can hit the reset button and maybe start to think about next year and maybe what could be.
Yeah, well, what benefit do you have to win now? In fact, you benefit more to lose out because your chances at the number one overall get better and better, don't they?
For sure. And they could finish anywhere between fourth last and eighth last. There's a little bit of a swing here at the end. So for those that care about draft lottery odds, them losing out here could help in that sense. I think Lindy Ruff has said that by how he's constructed the lineup and by how he's gone in net with James Reimer, that he values the winning more so than anything. And look, if it means we're picking sixth instead of fifth, but if this establishes some of these young guys to learn how to play the right way and win, I'm going to do it. Even if it means I've got less of an answer on Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, he keeps playing James Reimer, who, of course, right now is giving them the better chance to win. I'm a little surprised in the sense that you still wouldn't want to learn more about Luukkonen, but I think Lindy says, look, in the end here, it's a better gain for our organization that these young guys learn how to play the right way and learn how to win, and they're going to do it in front of a goaltender right now that gives them the better chance. And I think, that's why they're playing a 37-year-old in net 3 out of every 4 nights or 4 out of every 5 nights, which, again, I don't know what that does for Luukkonen's future. Maybe they've already, inside house have thought, look at Levi's going to be our guy next year. They just gave an extension to Luukkonen last year, but Lindy has gone his messaging and what he's done with the lineup. He has basically said, we're going all in on winning and learning how to play the right way here, no matter what it does in the standings here over this final month to try to maybe establish something for next year.
Brian, I got one more hockey question for you because Amerks related. We're excited about another Calder Cup run here. What are the odds we'll get Yuri Kulik back in Rochester for the run, Brian?
Yep, he's eligible. Smart move by Kevin Adams to do the paper transaction so that he's there. I would send him down. Yuri Kulik playing in the postseason in a high-pressure spot, obviously going from the top line with the Sabres, and he's playing with Tage Thompson. He could come down there and hopefully have a dominating playoff. There's no negative to me. Unless he's dealing with something physically that they don't want him to be pushed through a playoff run, I would 100% do it. I would say I would think that there's so much more benefit than there is negative that I think the decision's a no-brainer. I would send him down. You want Devin Levi to have a long run. You want your younger players and prospects to have a long run. Even some alternative reasons. The more scouts and other teams see your prospects play in higher pressure situations, it also just intrinsically moves their value up if you want to trade one of them in a trade in something in the offseason. So I really don't see a reason why he shouldn't. I think organizationally, even though the Amerks obviously have had better winning success than the Sabres had, I still think the organization as a whole, anything you can do to establishing a winning culture here, I know this sounds super cliche, I think you do it. And that means definitely allowing Kulik to play for the Amerks in the playoffs.
Man, that is music to our ears, Brian, because we're over here on pins and needles thinking, yeah, he played all season with the Sabres. They're probably going to say, he's played enough hockey.
We want to look at Consta Hellenius on the minutes should go somewhere else. It's about development. No, winning is development. Brian, one last one for me. Looking ahead to the PGA Championship, Quail Hollow. What can you tell us about this course? Looking forward to May here.
Yeah, it's a spot that they normally play on the PGA Tour. It's a regular tour stop, and Rory McIlroy's had success there. So I got to think that he's going to have the headlights and the favorite label put on him going into this event. Just a long classic layout where you got to hit it a mile to do well. Well, guess what? That sets up super well for Rory. So I got to think that this win yesterday has got to let him play a little bit more freely with a lot less pressure on him. He doesn't have to get asked now every time at a major, well, what about your major streak? It's been 11 years. Well, he doesn't have to answer to any of that anymore. The fact that he got the major streak slump done and he got the Grand Slam kind of got to be double freeing for him. I'm sure a lot of that emotion that we saw at the end yesterday was just the buildup of this last 11 years of constantly going into every major. And Rory, unlike a lot of other players that have had these droughts, like Spieth's had a drought. but Spieth also has not been sharp with his game. Jason Day's had a drought. You could argue a handful of guys here that have been there, gone away, come back here. Rory has been a consistent player through this drought here of 11 years. He's been a top 3 player the entire time. He wins multiple times every year. He's been player of the year on the European Tour. He's been PGA Tour player of the year. He's been a FedEx Cup champion. So it's not like his game has been poor during this drought. He's just found ways to not win in the 4 most important tournaments of the year. And I'm sure it bothered him quite a bit. I got to think he's going to play freely. I think Rory goes on and has a really, really, really good rest of the year because of this. I wouldn't be surprised. In fact, if I was going to say put money on one side or the other with 3 majors left, I'd put money that he wins at least one more major. 7 to 8 every week. Yep. Looking forward to it. Hope everybody can listen in on WGR or on the Odyssey app. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, Brian.
You got it. Brian Koziel, host of Tee to Green. You can hear him on the Buffalo Sabres radio network as well. Always great with this time to join us here and talk golf in the sports bar.
Yeah, it's in a good spot, the sport, coming out of that.
Yeah. But, man, I would love the other majors to take a page out of what the Masters does as far as their presentation is concerned. I know it'll never happen because they make money, but
the Open, that's a whole different ballgame, right? So would the PGA do that? They make a lot of money. I'm like, whenever we were over there at Oak Hill, okay, we had
not enough bandwidth.
No,
yeah.
Like you're there to take pictures. That's the one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tough to get bandwidth when you're around that many people, but I actually kind of dig it. I mean, if you want to be there to take pictures and stuff, do they allow cell phones for the practice rounds? I think they do, right?
I don't think they do.
No. I'm all for it. I mean, just using our experience, recent memory of the PGA Championship was here. I snapped a couple of shots of different things when I was there, but man, I would have been just as fine just walking around, following a golfer, watching their game play out, taking in the course. And when you're there, when you're at Augusta, much better to view it through your 2 eyes than the lens of your camera phone. I just think that would be, I'd be fine with doing that at any major. If the majors decided no cell phones, hard thing for them to police and a hard thing for them to say to their fans, yeah, no, you can't have your cell phone anymore. The Masters has always just been different. And it's a shame that other majors and other golf tournaments can't adopt some of the same philosophies that the Masters have that have made them great.
Yeah, and as far as, all right, could you get a network to agree to the limited inventory? Maybe we just think differently. Maybe it's not a network. Maybe it's a YouTube, a Netflix, whatever it would be. But, Danger, hard for me to kind of imagine somebody sacrificing all that money.
I agree. RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys, covering the Dallas Cowboys for SB Nation, will join us here in the 4 o'clock hour. We'll also get his take on the Masters. We know he was watching along as well, like you were, like I was, like Gino was. We've got time for your calls at 866-4FAN if you want to pull up a stool and join us. And let's give away a free pair of tickets right now to see Breaking Benjamin along with 3 Days Grace, September 17th at Darien Lake Amphitheater, courtesy of Live Nation. If you're caller 5, 866-4FAN is the phone number, 866-4326. Tickets on sale now at livenation.com for Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace. A free pair of tickets for you now if you're 866 caller 5 at 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with 7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
What a Sunday at Augusta National. Rory McIlroy winning his first green jacket. Justin Rose coming up just short.
It was a special feeling, and unfortunately the playoff, they always end so quickly. You know, that's sudden death. You don't really get an opportunity. If you're not the guy to hit the great shot or hold the great putt, you know, it's over. So I felt like that's the nature of sudden death, but not really anything I could have done more today.
All the action in baseball. Under the lights tonight, the Yankees at the stadium sending Cookie Carrasco to the mound against Kansas City. The Mets are in Minnesota. The Rochester Red Wings off as they typically are on a Monday. They begin a series tomorrow against Worcester. Just 3 games left in the Amherst regular season, including Wednesday night, the team home against Cleveland. The Phoenix Suns today firing head coach Mike Budenholzer. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The long journey is over. McIlroy has his masterpiece. It's a grand slam roar at Augusta National.
There were points in my career where I didn't know if I would have this nice garment over my shoulders, but I didn't make it easy. I was nervous. It was one of the toughest days I've ever had on the golf course.
I don't think anyone really doesn't like Rory out there.
Really?
Amanda Balionis.
Now we've gotten deep in NBA playoff series previews. The NBA's play-in schedule is set.
The WNBA draft is tonight.
Paige Becker's
NFL draft. We still have 10 days.
Mike Danger.
It just goes to show it's cliche, but it's so hard to win a championship.
Gene Battaglia.
I don't know what to say.
It's WrestleMania week, is it not?
It's nice to be with good guys once in a while.
Yeah, we're not good guys.
Oh, I misjudged you two, didn't I?
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
RJ Ochoa is blogging the boys, covering the Dallas Cowboys for SB Nation. He's going to join us in the sports bar here in less than 20 minutes. We're glad you're joining us this afternoon as we recap everything from Masters weekend and look forward to the NFL draft, which is coming up here in, what do we say, 10 days? We're going to be at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue, neighborhood of the arts. That's for round 1, a week from Thursday. The NFL draft, and of course the Bills picking at 30. If you want to join us, we're live from 3 until 6 a week from Thursday at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the arts. As our friend Brett likes to say, we can share a cold one.
We can share a cold one and maybe a win or two.
Fantastic day at Three Heads. By the way, you look at the extended forecast. Some temperatures are going to be really nice the week of the draft. So,
this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
we never really left, but it feels like we are so back.
We are back.
We are so back.
We are back. By the way, in the Open, Dan DeLorean doing a great job as well. Yes, that really was Jim Boeheim in our studio on Friday.
Yeah, if you missed Jim Boeheim, wherever you get your podcast, you just search out the Sports Bar. We got a lot of positive comments. I think Brian's comment is the one that stuck with me the most. Great job interviewing Boeheim. You actually made him seem likable. Yes, Brian. We can do that if you're not a Jim Boeheim fan. And look, admittedly, we've been critical of Coach. We were critical of Coach for many years while he was still the head coach of Syracuse. For me, it was mostly how he was off the court and his kind of aura off the court. But nobody can dispute his generosity. Nobody can dispute his time spent in the community, what he's done for the communities of Central New York and Rochester.
I would also say part of the interview, what made it great, credit to Jimmy Patsos. We asked him for a story, and when you mentioned Jimmy Patsos, Boeheim automatically smiled and chuckled, and then talking about Gary Williams, how, kind of a psycho on the golf course.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find the audio of that. I thought the Dan DeLorean saved that for us somewhere, Gino, and I'm not.
It is in my email if I can get that to you.
Okay, yeah, we'll get that audio and we'll recap that. That was a fun conversation, and Jimmy Patsos teeing us up quite literally to ask Jim Boeheim about golfing with Williams. Yeah, to get Boeheim's reaction. Brian's right. If you didn't like him, we made him likable. But I think a lot of people, most of the people I think that listen to this show, if you're into Syracuse basketball, you're probably into Jim Boeheim. And he was in town for a great event for Big Brothers Big Sisters on Friday, which I heard was a resounding success. So that was fun. If you missed the conversation, we'll get it for you wherever you get your shows, you can just search out the Sports Bar.
Yeah, and look, if you're looking ahead to Syracuse basketball, how they're going to look is going to be a completely different team next year. Some recruits, the NIL is starting to come in. You got Carmelo's son. But the thing is with this NIL landscape, it is just ever-changing. And then we got this story dropped to us on Friday, the story about the Tennessee quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. Say that 10 times fast. Nico
Iamaleava.
You said it better than I.
Yeah.
So Nico, the quarterback for Tennessee, the story was, oh my gosh, he's doing a hold-in like he's T.J. Watt or Jordan Poyer or something. He's going to be there. Actually, he didn't even show up for the meetings. It was very simple. Okay, I'm not making enough NIL in my opinion. This is a first. Like you're trying to renegotiate on the fly? What happened? The Volunteers told him to hit the bricks. You get nothing from us. Now you're in the portal. Look, it may leave Tennessee in a bad spot at quarterback, but I think Tennessee was doing the greater good for the sport. You cannot set that precedent, not for an average quarterback. And I'm actually being nice, okay? You are not going to be a top 10 NFL pick.
That's the caveat.
Yeah.
If he was good, they would have bent over backwards and given him whatever he wants. But if they feel like, all right, we don't need this guy, we can get equal or greater production from somebody else, then hit the bricks.
Yeah, well, that's part of you when you're in your bubble and everybody tells you you're great and you should do this. That was a miscalculation. So, sorry. And you could say, well, he's a kid. No, once you start taking money, that's a business decision. That was a poor one. Like every Division I team, by the way, should be sending a thank you note to Vols head coach Josh Heupel for taking that stand.
I think we're going to have more and more of these conversations unless the students figure out a way to unionize, the athletes figure out a way to unionize, or there's some sort of antitrust given to college athletics, because this is not the first time and it's not the last time that NIL has forced a player away from the program that they're originally going to play for.
This, I'm thinking of the UNLV quarterback, but that was, hey, we made promises, you didn't keep them, I'm out of here.
And he quit in the middle of the season. This is before the season even started. The hold-in tactic, I mean, I guess somebody has to try do it, the first guy to do it. Unfortunately, there'll be an asterisk here for Nico. It didn't stick with his team, and we'll see where he ends up if he, what he ends up doing next. But it ain't going to be quarterback in the Volunteers in the fall. That much.
No, not at all.
I saw that Browns quarterback Kenny Pickett took some time out from the Pitt spring game talking about college football, and he was telling local reporters there in Pittsburgh whether or not he believes he'll start with the Cleveland Browns, his new team. His quote, "That's the plan, man. I'm not going there to hang out. I want to go play. I'm excited. Been working hard for it, taking it a day at a time." Gino, Shedeur to the Browns at 2. It's confirmed. Look, if he didn't think he could beat out Russell Wilson before last season in Pittsburgh, he's not beating out Joe Flacco or whomever they end up drafting. I am down on Pickett with the Browns. I think Browns fans are down on Pickett with the Browns. I think if you're a Browns fan now, Shedeur Sanders is the best option for you at 2. You take that guy and you get him in that competition with those two and potentially have your quarterback of the future.
Secret winner from the weekend, Shedeur Sanders. I know a lot of Steeler fans, well, maybe he'll fall to us at 21. And we went through the exercise last week saying, if you're Miami at 13, do you? If you're Dallas at 12 and RJ Ochoa was joining us, what about San Francisco? No. He's not leaving the top 10, not after what happened in New Orleans or whatever is being said right now. Derek Carr, injury to his shoulder, might not be available. Is that the course of action right now to take a quarterback that on an offense that is just so bad that can't succeed? Or if you're New Orleans, do you do the soft tank? I mean, it doesn't even have to be soft. Just draft a lineman. Don't take a quarterback.
You want Manning.
I want Manning.
Yeah, for Arch Manning to go home and to end up getting drafted by the Saints would be something. And you pair him with Kellen Moore, who would be in his second year there. I mean, Derek Carr not being available, potentially not being available in 2025. Like, what are we waiting for here? You're either going to have the shoulder surgery or not. It feels kind of fishy. It feels almost as if the soft tank is actually already in progress.
What's going on down there? Didn't Michael Thomas do that too? Like, oh, yeah, I guess I need surgery. I won't be ready for the season. Like, you're just figuring this out now. Huh?
Yeah. I went ahead and cemented my draft crush for the Buffalo Bills, Gino. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know where you are. I don't know where a lot of people stand as far as who they want to see the Bills select in the first round of the NFL draft. I'm not even going to say at 30 because I don't know that they're going to have to. I don't know that they're going to be able to wait for this guy. I think they have to go get Kenneth Grant. I think they have to find a way to get this guy, to get Grant out of Michigan. Chances are he's not there at 30. I don't care. Go get him. Go get a guy who is a fit for your scheme, who will be an impact immediately. Joe Marino described him as a dancing bear. He can move. He can stop the run. I just think he's a disruptor, and he's got size. Like, I'm so tired of, we're undersized up front. No, this guy at 340 is 6'4", 331. I mean, he's just a monster. Get Grant no matter what. I've planted my flag. That is my Buffalo Bills draft crush.
I think that you have another glaring need, and that's at corner. Now, who do they like at corner? We're going to have all our draft people on. It's not like the old days, Danger, where they would have a luncheon at Ilio DiPaolo's, and I actually went to one of those.
Really?
Yeah, and it was John Butler at the time, and he didn't say
his hand.
But he's kind of telling you without telling you, and again, that's long before social media. I'm old. But Kenneth Grant would be great in a Buffalo Bills uniform. I see the Bills saying, let's just move down here a little bit and make sure that I could see the Bills going 3 second-rounders in this draft rather than moving up.
Oh, you think they move out of the first round and go with 3 second-rounders?
Yeah, because like unless one of those guys falls at 30, that's the opportune time if you wanted to take a quarterback.
Yeah, see, I think right now with where they are and what they need defensively, and we've seen this defense get gashed by the run, and knowing that teams can exploit that out of the Bills' defense, that's the thing they want to change and correct immediately. You could do a lot worse than drafting this guy. His power, his size, his agility. Man, I was watching some of his highlights from Michigan. There's a play where he's running down the running back from Penn State. I'm like, oh, my God. To see a man of that size moving with that much agility and speed, I think he would be the guy here. With Daquan Jones nearing the end of his time, next to Ed Oliver, it addresses such a need for that defensive line. It makes him a better run-stopping team and more of a force up front defensively.
There is not an X factor, but there is something that we're not quite sure on. What do they think of Dwayne Carter? Because Dwayne Carter, to me, they've got something here in the third round. Then he hurts his wrist.
I think we know what they think of Dwayne Carter because, the wrist injury aside, they aren't shy. I know people will say, well, they're rough on rookies. They don't want to get rookies. No, they're not rough on rookies. They're rough on rookies that don't know what they're doing. If you don't know where you need to be and what you need to do, then you won't get that playing time. Eventually, you might. You got to show them that you're capable.
The defensive team captain, was barely on the field year one, Terrell Bernard. To the point where, is it Terrell? Is it Terrell? Nobody knew how to pronounce his name. To the point where, we have this middle linebacker competition, and they kept him under wraps. So I'm drawing an analogy here. Because you saw a little bit from Carter. He wasn't healthy. You've got a lot of guys in the mix.
Think about a guy like either Trey White or Osiris Torrance. Rookies, Benford, rookies get play. Rookies can get play. It's just a matter of the right rookies getting that play. And if Carter is healthy and they're choosing not to make him part of that rotation, it tells you kind of all you need to know.
But he was part of that rotation when he was healthy last year. So, what would this look like? And then you never know what happened after that. So that's maybe when we have Matt Perino on tomorrow. Tell me more about Dwayne Carter year two. Is there promise there? Because if Perino's oh my gosh, the guy, can't wait to see him or whatever, I'm wondering, if all things are equal, Danger, and he's got a different skill set. He's not a space eater like Kenneth Grant, like we were talking about.
Yeah. We'll be talking plenty of draft here leading up to a week from Thursday. In fact, a week from today, Chris Trapasso will be stopping by the sports bar. That's our buddy from CBS Sports, doing a great job as he does every year covering the NFL draft. He'll stop by a week from today, 3:25. Put a little tickler in your phone there, a little reminder to check out the sports bar to get all of your last-minute Buffalo Bills draft questions answered. But, yeah, my guy is Grant. I've planted my flag. I will not be swayed. Last year, it was McConkey. I still think they missed on that pick. I know that a lot of people like Keon Coleman. I just like McConkey better.
Do you remember who mine was last year?
You liked the guy that ran back a pick 6 in the Super Bowl.
Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, you liked DeJean. And here, it could be a difference maker immediately, day one on that defensive line. But, that's what makes this fun. The last 10 days here leading up to the draft, lots of debate over who they should take, who's available, whose stock is rising, whose stock is falling. And a lot of people believe that Grant won't be there at 30, but there have been plenty of analysts covering this draft that believe that Grant could be there at 30, and they've mocked draft to 30. His stock is rising, though, so I think the Bills might have to, invest a little bit to move up to get a guy like Kenneth Grant.
I'll have my draft.
Talked to Maddie about her mock draft roundup, and just hearing how much he's being mocked to the Bills, I think there's good reason for that. That's my guy. RJ Ochoa is blogging the boys for SB Nation, covering the Dallas Cowboys. Talk to him about the Masters, too, because he was just as invested as a fan as we were. Love getting RJ on with us. The Cowboys start their off-season program today, and it's worthy of note that Micah Parsons is there for that. He's not holding out. He's not away from the team as they work to negotiate an extension on his rookie deal. So RJ Ochoa joins us next on The Fan Rochester.
You're listening to the when you can have Maggie and Perloff spice things up. Download the Odyssey app and listen to 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan Rochester when you wake up, because mornings are better with sports. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Rory McIlroy completing the Grand Slam, winning his first green jacket.
It's a dream come true. I've dreamt about that moment for as long as I can remember. Just a complete roller coaster of a day. It's been 14 long years, but thankfully I got the job done.
We'll talk a little golf and a little Cowboys football. RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys, will join us next year in the Sports Bar. All the action in baseball tonight under the lights. The Yankees continuing their homestand. Kansas City is the opponent. Cookie Carrasco taking the mound for New York. The Mets, meanwhile, beginning a series tonight in Minnesota. The Rochester Red Wings beginning a series tomorrow night as Worcester will be coming to town. Just 3 games left in the season for the Rochester Americans, including Wednesday night when Cleveland comes in. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
He's blogging the boys. Dallas Cowboys start their off-season work today. We'll get to that with RJ Ochoa, who's covering the Cowboys at SB Nation. But RJ, you enjoyed the Masters as much as anybody yesterday. What an unbelievable final round. What a roller coaster ride for Rory McIlroy. Welcome back into the Sports Bar, buddy.
Of course. Thanks for having me, guys. It's always good to be on the best show in America. Yesterday was perfect in every single way. As a guy in his mid-30s, I've been waiting for yesterday for pretty much all of my adult life.
Really? Can you expand on that? Are you just a Rory fan, or just how as compared to other Masters, RJ?
Yeah, I mean, I love Rory, and I think that I cover the Dallas Cowboys, so I have a kind of innate bit of narcissism within me. Just to you have to have the job. You know what I mean? But I don't mean to speak on behalf of an entire subset that is millennial men, I suppose, but to stereotype. But I would say for the most part, we root for Rory. He's our age. He falls into this demographic. And so I actually wrote yesterday, at least why I was rooting for him. I have a wife and son. I know I've talked to you guys about this before, and I've experienced so much of life with Rory as this kind of undercurrent, this common denominator. And he's been so vulnerable at times, and he's been chasing this that entire time. And so in the most, cliche way that sports has the power to make real for us, Rory is proof that, I can win my own version of the Masters, and that I can fall in the Open or the U.S. Open the same way he did and ultimately still persevere. So I know that's sappy and lame on a lot of levels, but damn, it was tough to watch and tough to hold back tears.
Well, I tell you, it's interesting because I think both Gino and I grew up in the age of Tiger, and when we saw Tiger do what Tiger did, there's nothing that we believe can compare to that. But you're viewing this through the lens of maybe just a slightly younger generation, and you're saying that Rory is kind of like the guy of your generation. I was saying it earlier, I don't know that anybody can be Tiger, just like I don't know that anybody could be Jack. But Rory certainly feels now with the career Grand Slam and knowing that he's one of 6 that he can be, viewed as among the elite. And maybe you're right. Maybe like the Tiger of the millennial generation.
Yeah, no one is Tiger. And I think any generation acknowledges that. And what he did, 6 years ago, even still stands alone. But I would say that it felt like we were really lucky to get that. It felt like, wow, this was so precious that Tiger was able to give us one more. And I think there was this universal level of understanding, like this is never going to happen again. Whereas with Rory, this really did feel like a coronation of sorts. This is like if Game of Thrones had ended properly, right? Like we've been waiting for this for forever. And so for it to happen and for it to happen in this tumultuous, roller coastery sort of way, it was, I don't know. I've never seen the Cowboys win the Super Bowl in terms of my adult life. So I don't know. I'm an Astros fan, as you guys know. That comes really close for me in terms of things. And I love other golfers more than Rory in certain respects. But watching a level of history like that in any sport is really cool to live through.
Yeah, and RJ, last one for me on the golf, because it is kind of just this celebration of this club, of this format, and as far as a TV product, RJ, there's nothing else that compares to it, because heck, we're guilty of this too. Like, so many commercial messages, you're bombarded throughout the day, and it's so limited. I don't know if we're ever going to get anything else like that. I just hope that they never change the formula here at Augusta National.
Yeah, people say all the time about how it's so cool how the patrons obviously don't have their phones, and so they're kind of experiencing it from an eye-to-eye standpoint. But to your point, because there are so limited commercial interruptions, I didn't check my phone that much yesterday. I don't know how y'all were, but especially given the way that the round was kind of happening. Now, golf offers natural rhythms and pockets for you to do that, but it is so special and so unique. A hot take, and maybe this is a conversation for a different day. I've been once, and I would offer that yesterday was the kind of day that I would hate to be there for. And that is the take, because it's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, but there are thousands upon thousands of people, and because you don't have your phone, because there are throngs of human beings, you simply cannot watch all of the golf, right? I mean, yesterday featured, how many different highs and lows and moments of extreme consequence and pitfalls. And if you had been there, you would have seen a small fraction of them. And so I happened to be there when Patrick Reed won, which, if you go, you want a loser to win, kind of like my year, because, you don't want to have missed something amazing.
Well, that's funny. It does feel like it. I mean, like most sports, it's a made-for-TV product, from the spray painting of the grass to green to the quartz in the bunkers. But to be there live, I have to imagine, RJ, was quite the thrill, even though you had to watch Patrick Reed put on the green jacket for the first time. We're joined by RJ Ochoa, blogging the boys at SB Nation. Now, today is the day that the Cowboys report for their off-season work. Day one, new head coach. And I think it's worthy of note that Micah Parsons is participating, even though he doesn't have that extension. What can you tell us about day one here?
Yeah, I think the most important word relative to today is that it's voluntary. And you're right, Micah didn't have to show up, and he did. And this was the first, I would say, point of demarcation in that discussion. Now, look, it remains stupid that we're at this point and that Micah doesn't have his extension already. But to stick with the, opening subject we discussed, that is par for the course for how the Cowboys operate, as you all well know. So this is, I don't know that I'm, look, Rory McIlroy just won the Masters, so anything can happen in sports as far as I'm concerned. But I would not read into this as, okay, the Micah extension is inevitable any moment now. I always thought that they were going to come to some point where they wanted to see Micah, even though it's stupid that he would have to prove anything else to them at this point in time. I think they wanted to see him show up when he didn't have to, because they've been through the ringer with different players on different levels and different situations like this. It's worth mentioning, obviously, that CeeDee Lamb didn't show up last year. It's also worth mentioning that Dak Prescott did. Now, all due respect to CeeDee, I think that Micah wields a different level of power just because he's the best player on the team. And we haven't seen somebody really do it, the way CeeDee did. It doesn't happen as often as you would think relative to the Cowboys. So that Micah showed up is an olive branch on his part, and the Cowboys like to wait before they hand anything else on theirs.
RJ, I remember the last time we spoke, we had you on the show. You were in New Orleans. It was Super Bowl week, and one of the storylines that had nothing to do with the Chiefs or the Eagles was, hey, there's Myles Garrett on Radio Row, and he's rubbing shoulders, and we're all salivating here, as many other fans. And in the end, he got paid, and he got paid from his own team when we all thought he was going to be on the move. So my question here is, this story ends with Micah Parsons getting paid by the Cowboys, correct? Is there any other outcome other than the Cowboys doing this? They're not going to think about trading him, correct?
No, absolutely not. I would add to your sort of premonition, I guess, and say that this ends with Micah getting paid by the Cowboys and becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL, which is a distinction that this offseason we've seen Myles Garrett and Max Crosby each hold. Both players who obviously play the same position as Micah, which again is, should have served as motivation to get this thing done as soon as possible so you could beat that market rate. It's why the Cowboys should have gotten this done a year ago. This, for anyone in your audience who's unaware, This is the second offseason in which Micah has been eligible for a contract extension. There's no reason why it shouldn't have been done a year ago, except for the fact that the Cowboys were dealing with the procrastinated situations involving Dak and CeeDee that we already talked about. And so this will absolutely end with Micah having won. There will be no way in the contract in which anyone can spin and say, well, the Cowboys got this, or they got that. No, this will end with Micah, like Dak, like CeeDee, like DeMarcus Lawrence, having the gun. The Cowboys are the perpetual rabbit, but unlike your favorite rap song or whatever, they never get to hold the gun here.
RJ, talk about Dak, because there are reports out there that hamstring isn't healing as quickly as I think some expected it to heal. What do we know about the health of the starting quarterback?
Yeah, I would say Dak now. I think my context is important in that Dak is now at the top of whatever you want to call the list that Rory McIlroy was at the top of for me, like relative to the Masters. Like I so badly want all of this for him in the way that I did for Rory. And because of that, I have some reservations and some concerns in a mild level, but in a real one, which is I think where you have to kind of come to terms with things, because I'm not panicked by that situation relative to the hamstring injury, but Dak obviously spoke last week and he was asked whether he considers himself to be injury prone, and he said no, and I certainly don't fault him for that disposition. I think though, if we were in a court of law, I would disagree. I mean, because if we trace back prior to 2020, Dak had missed a single moment of his career, but he had the ankle injury in 2020. In 2021, if you recall, when they were on Hard Knocks, he had that shoulder issue that was kind of plaguing him at the beginning of the season. He wound up missing a single game that year, kind of in late October, November time. In 2022, he hurt his thumb at the beginning of the season. He missed 5 games. He played every game in 23, should have won MVP, whatever. Last year, obviously, the hamstring. So it's not like we're talking about an athlete that has, it's the same ankle or something that just keeps flaring up. It's these, and maybe they aren't just random freak coincidences that are just happening over and over again. But I think it's fair to have some wonder. I mean, this is his 10th year in the NFL. I mean, these things take a toll. And so I'm a little concerned in a real objective way. But again, I ultimately trust him because I think that it's very difficult for Dak to be evaluated fairly on a national level by geniuses like yourselves. But thankfully, you guys are among the elite analysts in the game. That being said, we're talking about a dude who played out of his mind 2 years ago. And so I'm still willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and trust him in an overall perspective.
RJ, 10 days from today, it's the NFL draft. And one of the things I loved about the draft, we don't know anything. We think we know, but we really don't. And I'm looking at Shedeur Sanders. If he went number 2 to Cleveland, wouldn't surprise me. If he fell to number 12, it wouldn't surprise me. And I guess when we're exploring all the options of what the Cowboys may do with that first-round selection, would Jerry pull the trigger on something like that if Sanders is there at number 12?
I really don't think so. And given that we already survived the Johnny football, being on the board, I know that was over a decade ago now, but I mean, that was flying as close to the sun as you possibly can on this situation. But maybe, that was the Tony Romo era. Maybe Shedeur is Dak Prescott's, Johnny Manziel. And he has to kind of go through that in the same respect. I find that incredibly, again, even if you think Dak sucks or you're somebody like that, I mean, he's just beginning the first year of the extension that they negotiated last year. And so from a pragmatic standpoint, you wouldn't be able to benefit from the rookie quarterback contract that you would have under Shedeur. So it just, again, doesn't make sense on a practical level. In terms of what is most likely, married with, I think, the general hopes of Cowboys fans, I think everybody wants a skill position player there. CeeDee Lamb is remarkable, but I think Bills fans are kind of in a similar boat here in terms of wanting more options and more weapons for, in your case, the reigning MVP to work with. And so Ted McMillan out of Arizona, I think, is the best possible option, arguably the best wide receiver that isn't Travis Hunter, obviously. And I say that as an Arizona State Sun Devil, which is difficult for me given that he went to the worst school in America. But Ted McMillan and Matthew Golden out of Texas, I think those are really great options for the Cowboys. And that's the lone position of need they had when the offseason began that they haven't addressed in a serious way from a quantitative perspective. We've seen them add linebackers and running backs and defensive tackles. But wide receiver, while they did sign Paris Campbell, they still could use a huge infusion of juice, especially since Brandon Cooks left back to New Orleans.
RJ, dating back to 2020, the team that has spent the least amount of draft capital on the running back position is the Dallas Cowboys. And I know you get Javonte Williams coming in out of Denver, but he wasn't very good behind a better offensive line in terms of run blocking in Denver than what the Cowboys were last year. Does Ashton Genty, if he falls to Dallas at 12, does a running back in a first round where the over-under is set at 2.5 for running back selected, do the Cowboys go running back early in this draft?
You know, when the draft cycle began right after the other worst team in America won the Super Bowl, I think everybody, naturally connected Ashton to the Cowboys. I mean, any mock draft you saw, whatever outlet, that was super popular. But as we've moved along and gotten closer to it, I think we've all just kind of understood and accepted that the reality is Ashton's probably not going to be there. And he'll probably have been off the board for, I would say, at least an hour by that point in time. And so the most likely available option is Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, and that just feels like such a reach for the Cowboys. But to your point, while they did sign Javonte Williams, they also added Miles Sanders. This is a team that, they went from being on one end of the spectrum with spending the 4th overall pick and doubling down with a $90 million contract extension at the position to not caring about it at all. And, the reality of proper utilization of resources is very much in the middle of that spectrum. And so we've offered for years. I mean, the 4th round last year was kind of that money round where everybody knew that the run was going to happen on the position, that yet the Cowboys didn't have a 4th round selection because of the Trey Lance trade. And so it does feel like, the 2nd or 3rd round, that day 2 kind of run of players at running back specifically is where it's going to make the most sense for them to find one. The Buckeyes both make a lot of sense, whether it's Travion Henderson or Quinshon Judkins. I mentioned I'm an ASU guy. Cam Scattergood would be a little bit further down the line, but I would love that option as well. I absolutely expect them to add there, but I don't think Ashton will fall to them. But I do, to your question's point, I guess, think if he did, they would have a very difficult time saying no.
RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys, our guest here in the Sports Bar. RJ, since the last time we spoke, we actually had a trade between the Cowboys and Bills, and I know a lot of Bills fans are kind of snickering at this because the idea that Kyer Elam was even going to be on the roster next year, but the Cowboys will get him in early here. And your early thoughts here on this trade here and how maybe Elam's chances of actually making the Cowboys roster, how would you size him up?
I promise this is not a flex, and it's just to give you the context. That trade happened when I was en route to playing Pebble Beach, and so I was on a natural high. And so, that I may have graded it on a curve. Is my point. I loved the trade. Now I know that Bills fans were kind of fed up and whatnot, and I get that perspective completely. And I'm not sitting here saying like, what a bunch of idiots. The Cowboys pulled the old rope-a-dope. But the Cowboys. You have to understand that the bar is so low for this team in terms of expectations of activity, especially, measured against what they did last year, which was a whole batch of nothing. And so if you recall a couple of years ago, the Cowboys, made some veteran trades for Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks, who I already mentioned. Now this is not that. I'm in no way offering that. But this was one of what we now know to be 3 eventual veteran trades the Cowboys pulled off. They obviously traded for Elam, but they also spent, time working with Tennessee to get Kenneth Murray, and most recently the Patriots with Joe Milton. And so these are the kinds of moves that we have begged the Cowboys to, explore. These, Kenneth Murray also, like Elam, a former first-round pick. I know these are things that are in the rearview mirror now, but that makes sense. And if all you're doing is turning, a lottery ticket into a slightly longer shot lottery ticket relative to your day 3 pick, I'm fine with that. I'm very good with that. So I really did applaud the Cowboys for the move. I don't know that I found it to be cunning or, super brilliant or of higher intellect than what the Bills are doing, but it made sense to me in terms of addressing a position of need, especially because Jordan Lewis left in free agency to the Jaguars. And you never know, maybe a change of scenery does work out for him. We have seen that happen for the Cowboys in years past. Somebody like Dante Fowler, everybody laughed at, or Aldon Smith, like these former first-round picks who didn't really, kind of shine in their first NFL stints, but they get there with the Cowboys and they trust their veteran scouting department, and you never know what you're able to get out of them. And so I really, really liked it. But again, I also understand being happy that he's gone from your roster.
Hey, look, I mean, at worst, he's a great guy. I never heard a bad thing about Kyer Elam while he was with the Buffalo Bills, other than he couldn't get on the field and maybe wasn't necessarily a fit for what Sean McDermott has in mind for his defense, which you're right, that change of scenery could be anything. We're talking to RJ Ochoa, Blogging the Boys at SB Nation, the kind words, the flattery, RJ. I mean, we can't let you go without letting you have the floor for a little bit here and tell us more about the work you're doing there for SB Nation.
Oh, I appreciate it. You know, it's we're getting out of there are a handful of doldrums, I would say, in the off season, which is what allows a schmuck like me an opportunity to go play Pebble Beach. You get that time off or whatever. But we're ramping up, obviously, for the NFL draft, and I've been scratching my golf itch a little bit, writing a little bit more for just SBNation.com in general. But this is, I wouldn't say it's the most fun time to be covering the Cowboys. Obviously, things have been really tense and really chaotic for a few years now, but I do think that the darkest part of the night is behind us. I think that's what last year was, and I think that sentiment is really starting to be adopted among the fan base. And so, you mentioned it, the draft is 10 days away, and that is, Kate McAllister incorrectly said in Home Alone that Christmas was the season of perpetual hope. That's wrong, Kate. It's NFL draft time. And so we're very excited to look at what the Cowboys are going to do with these 10 picks. And so we're just previewing things galore, mocking drafts every single day, and just kind of crossing our fingers and hoping that Jerry Jones doesn't say something stupid, which is something that, we have to hope for harder than you think.
RJ, A-plus performance as always from you. Really appreciate your time today. Be well.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great day.
You got it. There's RJHO, blogging the boys for SB Nation, talking some Dallas Cowboys, talking some Masters. I didn't think about that, but that makes a lot of sense that, if you're RJ's age, you're a guy in your mid-30s, you're a millennial, Rory's really the guy that you've kind of come up with, right? Like you saw Tiger, you recognize the greatness, but it's been Rory that's the guy that you identify with the most because you've seen his growth, his kind of rise to fame, and his struggle as well.
Well, the one thing they did show, and you've seen it, when Rory won his first two majors, like, oh my
He's
gosh,
a kid.
He's a kid.
Yeah. An absolute kid. We were laughing. We're like, look at him. He looks like a dork. He's just a goofy-looking kid from Northern Ireland. And, like most of us, he finds a girl from Rochester, and she cleans him up, takes the crusties out of his eyes, and next thing you know, he's got a green jacket on. Who knew? Over-under for first-round running backs set at 2.5, Gino. Which direction are you going?
Under.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a draft that is loaded with running backs, apparently. So, unless you want the brand name, okay, you're going to have the two guys.
Well, I think that's why they said it at 2.5, right? Like, there could be two guys. Will there be three?
But why would you do that at the end of the first round?
Who was the last guy? The Chiefs took Clyde Edwards-Helaire with the final pick of the first round.
See, that's going to be an interesting, like, when was the last time we actually had three running backs go in the first round?
Yeah.
Somebody might say, well, just last year. Honestly, I don't know.
I think it's been a minute. I think it's been a while since we've had that. But that'll be interesting. And I wonder what happens with Ashton Genty. Do teams actually recognize him as somebody that can be that difference maker offensively, invest something as much as a top 10 pick in him, or does the rest of the league kind of view him as, okay, well, that's a running back and we can get that production in the later round?
2024 draft. How many running backs went in the first round? 0.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Appreciate RJ giving us his time, giving us a little peek behind the curtain there, what's going on with Dallas, who gets their offseason work today, as do the New Orleans Saints. The Saints. Oh, the Saints. What to do if you're the New Orleans Saints and you might not have your quarterback at a time. The soft tank is happening, Gino. I'm convinced now.
Let's do it.
I'm convinced that the Saints are in.
No, but
it's the soft tank.
They are the perpetual team. They're like, okay, let's put some flex tape on it and we'll be good.
I don't think that's happening this year. I think no amount of flex tape is going to make that team a contender or for their division. Or I think they're contending for nothing but the first overall pick in 2026.
I have the answer, Danger.
Tell me.
Okay, last time we had more than two running backs go in the first round. The year was 2018.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you. You think about that.
All right. We'll get those three running backs figured out here from the 2018 draft during happy hour, which is on the way next on the Fan Rochester. We'll recap what was an amazing, amazing Masters tournament and a finish on Sunday that I don't think we'll be forgetting anytime soon. And we'd love to get your take on it as well at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Sports world still buzzing about Rory McIlroy pulling off the Grand Slam, winning his first green jacket. Justin Rose, on the other hand, coming up just short.
It was a special feeling, and unfortunately the playoff, they always end so quickly. You know, that's sudden death. You don't really get an opportunity. If you're not the guy to hit the great shot or hold the great putt, you know, it's over. So I felt like that's the nature of sudden death, but not really anything I could have done more today.
All the action in the majors under the lights tonight, including the Yankees at the stadium taking on Kansas City. Cookie Carrasco getting the start for the Bombers. The Mets tonight beginning a series in Minnesota. The Rochester Red Wings, as they typically are, off on a Monday. Worcester coming to town tomorrow. Just 3 games left in the Rochester American season. They're locked in as the 2 seed. The Hammocks Wednesday night will be taking on Cleveland. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
The long journey is over. McIlroy has his masterpiece. It's a Grand Slam roar at Augusta National.
There were points in my career where I didn't know if I would have this nice garment over my shoulders, but I didn't make it easy. I was nervous. It was one of the toughest days I've ever had on the golf course.
I don't think anyone really doesn't like Rory out there. Really? Amanda Balionis.
Now we've gotten deep in NBA playoff series previews. The NBA's play-in schedule is set.
The WNBA draft is tonight.
Paige Becker's
NFL draft. We still have 10 days.
Mike Danger.
It just goes to show, it's cliche, but it's so hard to win a championship.
Gene Battaglia.
I don't know what to say.
It's WrestleMania week, is it not? It's nice to be with good guys once in a while.
Yeah, we're not good guys.
Go, I misjudged you two, didn't I?
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
It is happy hour. Welcome back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. We're glad you're with us for Rochester's only local sports talk show. And listen, you've got a lot of options for your sports information and entertainment. If you're choosing us, even if it's just for a few minutes on your ride home, we don't take that for granted. We know how precious your time is. It's valuable, your most precious commodity. You choose us, that's humbling. Thank you for listening. And thank you for watching on our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester on YouTube as well, where we live stream every afternoon from 3 until 6. You never know who could stop by the Sports Bar. We had a great conversation earlier with RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys, Brian Koziel. We broke down the Masters, and we'll talk plenty of Masters. But really, our Masters talk started last week as we were preparing for the tournament. We get to Thursday, and we see Justin Rose do what he often does, get off to a hot start. And then Friday comes along, and we've got Coach Jim Boeheim, the Hall of Famer from Syracuse, in our studio in town for a great event, and we talk a little golf with Coach.
Well, the funny thing is, like, yes, an interview, hey, Jim, tell us about what do you think where Syracuse is. Tell us about NIL. How's retirement going? But you want him to tell stories. This is what we got to credit Jimmy Patsos, our buddy from Monumental Sports, for teeing us up on this, because once he gave Boeheim the topic, it took off here.
And we've got the Masters on in the studio as well, and I know you like to follow golf. We actually talked to Coach Patsos earlier in the week. He wanted us to bring up to you the time that you guys all golfed together, and Coach Williams, a little off the handle, a little bit of an angry golfer is what we hear.
Coach Williams is a good friend of mine, and he's a great guy until he's either coaching a team or on the golf course. He's the worst on the golf course. He's my partner, and we're playing about the 4th hole. He's not good, and I at that time was good. So, you know, 3-4 handicapper. He's like a 15 and thinks he's a 5. So I said to him before he's getting ready to shoot, he's my partner. I said, nice, good swing, nice and easy. Let's go. Don't you tell me how to play golf. Don't you say that. I said, what? And then he dubbed it about 20 feet and really was mad at me. But that's Gary Williams. He's like that. He was the coach on the court when Pearl hit the half-court shot, and he thought he was going to win the game, and he was standing at half court, and people were just boiling onto the court. I said, Gare, and he's looking at me. Gare, he's like transfixed. What happened? I said, Gare, game's over. Let's go. We got to go. You lost. It was crazy. It was the mildest I've ever seen the Dome. People were just pouring onto the court. But Gary Williams is a really good friend. We call him Wacko. PJ Carlissimo gave him the name Wacko because he is completely whack. Jimmy Patso was coaching with him, and every time one of his recruits made a bad play, he would fire Jimmy right there. He would turn, how could you recruit that guy? He's horrible. You're fired. Get out of here. Get off the bench. He did that every game. Not once, every game.
Yeah. I think Brian left a comment somewhere on my feed saying, hey, nice job on the Boeheim interview. You made him seem likable. And I know for a lot of people, like, they love Jim Boeheim. They like Jim but there are plenty of people out there that didn't love Jim Boeheim during his time at Syracuse.
I think part of this, too, is Danger. And you know this, right? We talked to, Bills players during camp, and they're great. But when you get players that are out of the game and can tell you stories and they let their guard down, isn't that apply to Boeheim a little bit?
So.
Yeah.
I mean, and at his age now, at age 80, for him to be as open and forthright as he was, to give us his time like he did on Friday, which was generous of him to do, I just think, man, differences aside, however I viewed this guy, at minimum, you could get unbelievable stories from him now that he doesn't have the pressure of fielding a winning program every single season. And that was what was enjoyable about that. One of the many things that was enjoyable about that conversation from Friday.
Yeah, if you missed that, it's up on our website. You can go right now also to the app. Again, Jim Boeheim on Friday with us in studio. There was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Like, we had Ryan Miller on last week. Looking ahead, a lot of draft talk, certainly. And, and not until May, probably, for the golf talk again when we get to the PGA Championship. Today seems like a day that, it's a really good event that you're talking about this the afternoon after, right? Normally the news cycle kind of moves on. And if you were tuning in expecting us to talk about the WNBA draft, not really.
I just think that a gauge for me is when a casual fan of a sport can't help but talk about the sport that they're a casual fan of. And I've had a couple of friends who I know are casual golf fans. They don't make a point to watch every tournament or know who the world number one is, but they made a point yesterday going in knowing, oh, it's Rory and Bryson. Like, that's a pretty good final pairing, and it tees off at 2:30. It's the Masters. It's a major, and a career Grand Slam is on the line. There was just a lot of intrigue going into that final round, and it didn't disappoint, man. I mean, from the very start, the roller coaster ride that was Rory McIlroy's 2025 Masters continued. It was up. It was down. The double bogey at 1 made you think, oh, he's going to choke this away.
Well, it was 13 Danger because all you had to do was kind of lay up. And we talked to Brian Koziel, like he had played that differently the whole week, and he took a chance. But you're up by 4 strokes. What are you doing? And in a blink of an eye, you're tied. And poof, there goes your lead, and you're thinking, oh, no, this is happening again in real time. What happened last year at the U.S. Open, this is 10 times worse. Oh, my gosh. Okay, phew. You make that shot. Oh, no, he's going to do it again. He missed on 18.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no.
Right. He misses on 18, forces the playoff with Justin Rose, who I contend was the best golfer of the weekend. Like, consistent, the thing that Rory won because he got himself out of trouble. He made amazing shots when he needed to make amazing shots. I think Rose was just the more consistent golfer through the course of the weekend, has that final surge during the 4th round and forces the playoff. DeChambeau kind of falling off a little bit. And I wonder if the psychology of the game came into play here. This is DeChambeau on McIlroy.
Did you speak to him in there? How's he doing? Do you know?
No idea. Didn't talk to me once all day.
What was the atmosphere like at everything?
Electric. I loved it, but he was just like, just being focused, I guess. So it's not me, though.
Did you try and initiate conversation with Rory at all?
He wouldn't talk to me.
DeChambeau is a talker. DeChambeau is a creator now. He's doing what he does, what he believes is best for his brand, whether you like it or not. You can't help but notice that when these two golfers are walking through a crowd, one of them is stoic and focused, and the other one is giving fist bumps on the way through, DeChambeau being that. And if there was some kind of psychological play, Rory wasn't having it. He wasn't talking to anybody. He wasn't engaging with anybody. he was in the moment, and whether you like that or not, it was enough to get it done when it was all said and done. You saw the raw emotion after he sinks that putt to win on that first playoff hole and defeat Justin Rose in the playoff.
Yeah, that's like somebody who like stared something down. Like his demons. Ooh, demons, you're going to double bogey.
But it's true. I mean, for 11 years, this has been hanging over his head. And even all weekend, you said it, there were moments where like, oh my God, it's going to happen again. He's going to choke again.
They flashed up the graphic. You've never had a Masters champion over the course of 4 rounds shoot 4 double bogeys. That doesn't normally happen that you can recover.
Right.
Much less 2 on the final round.
Right. Yes.
And the way and this is the thing too. Wasn't just about Rory. You had methodical Justin Rose. Don't we want Justin Rose to win something now? The way he was going about his business.
He's got to win a Masters.
Hitting that punt on 18.
He's got to win a Masters. I mean, to have Garcia take him down in the playoff and now Rory to take him down in the playoff, like it's got to come for that guy. He's all class, and you just I loved how Justin Rose dealt with that. I mean, that's a gut-wrenching defeat, but at the same time, in the classy manner that he holds himself, conducts himself, he's just happy to be a part of that historic moment and wishes nothing but the best for Rory. I mean, I don't know that I would be that gracious. When you contrast how Justin Rose accepted that defeat at the Masters to how Rory accepted defeat at the U.S. Open by storming off and not engaging with anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, one guy has an immense amount of class, and he's not the guy wearing the green jacket. Now, we've been critical of Rory. It's been a weird 12 to 18 months for us here in Rochester in terms of our relationship with Rory.
Yeah, I think that we are the one and only show in the country that because, well, his connection to Rochester. And
we claim him as ours, even though he is clearly not ours. We claim him as ours. You married one of us. You married a Rochesterian. You married a girl from here. So we claim you, and we I believe that there's a mansion being built for Rory and for Erica, and I don't know where, and I only hear stories about it.
Yeah, I mean, right.
I'm not like looking for it. I'm not like where.
Pretty much they're down in Jupiter, Florida, like right now. So
right.
like if you think you're going to go up to Webster and be like, oh, there's Rory. No, you haven't him. But I'm sure at some point with her family in town. But we kind of took that personally, Danger. And if you recall like the whole timeline of this, and this is why it attracted a lot of people, because the whole idea of Liv, it's kind of skeevy, right? Like this is not, and it's quite frankly not working, and we're not tuning in, but they took a lot of the golfers away, and here you had Rory being the voice of, no, this is not it. And somebody, it was originally Liv Watcher, just leaked a bunch of stuff, like, okay, what about this? And pointing to some other things, and other people reported, and we don't need to go over that, because there was Erica, there was Poppy. Granted, a lot of that is always kind of propped up Masters Sunday, making sure that they're always in the same exact spot.
But you felt something. I felt something. I mean, like, even though we might have the feelings that we have, and a lot of professional athletes have their dark side, and they will make those mistakes off of the field, away from the court, whatever it may be. I mean, seeing the breakdown on the green, seeing the embrace of Poppy, I got emotional. I can't lie, man.
Yeah, breaking down on 18. Like, who else has done that? Jordan on Father's Day, realizing I did it. Oh my gosh, I don't have my dad here. That was real.
Yes.
And that is something that if you are of our generation,
you remember. You'll always remember. I can't say that I put this above 2019 as far as the Masters go.
I say well, for the Tiger nostalgia, yes, 2019 is right there, and there's recency bias here for sure.
Yeah, I know that there are people that will look back to 86 with Nicholas, and that there have been plenty of great Masters tournaments. This one was one of the best, but man, 2019 hit me a different way to see Tiger win it the way he won it, with everybody that he was competing against on that Sunday,
with his kids at the end.
His kids at the end, I'm like, that almost felt like the end of a chapter as far as your fandom for that specific golfer. And with Rory, at his age, if he stays healthy, you could get another good 10 years of Rory playing at this high level that he's playing at right now, winning the Masters. And Brian Koziol joined us earlier. So don't be surprised if he wins another major this season.
The one that got me was 04. Because you look at Phil Mickelson now, 6 majors, one of the best of all time. Danger, he was the guy living in Tiger's shadow. He was the guy who crumbled, hitting hospitality tents and imploding at the worst times. And here was Masters Sunday, and he held on the end, jumping high as Phil at that point. He was hefty at that point into the air. And it's Easter Sunday, and his 3 girls all dressed up in their Easter finest running over. He's like, Daddy won it. It's like, oh, my gosh. That was the one for me. And look, that's what kind of makes the Masters timeless, right?
Yeah.
You can mark time with this.
It's special. And, watching it and knowing that there are more casuals watching it as well, I think where golf is right now, it's in a great spot. But it's in a great spot largely because of how well they produce this event. It's a made-for-TV event, like most of the things that we watch on TV are. Like, it's great to see an NHL game in person.
TV,
I think Masters is. I mean, for them to go through the detail that they go through, not just in what they say, how they say it, but how it all looks. I mean, you have to share, your conversation with your old man this weekend, because I'm sure you've made that call to Mr. Battaglia and said, hey, did you notice? The azaleas have popped.
So, all right. Can I tell my story?
Of course you can.
All right. So every year, this is me in high school, Danger. And what do you do with your father? You watch sports, right? And granted, how many rounds of golf have I played with my dad? None. He doesn't golf, okay? And I golf terribly, so none. Never did it, but we can appreciate the competition, and we love sports. So and again, I'm in high school, and coming up on 13, and you see all these colorful flowers, and we're in gray, dreary Rochester, and I just said, wow. It's like, hey, those are azaleas, and every year they will either get ultraviolet lights to get them to pop out early and right on time, or if they're getting ready to pop out, they'll cool them with some ice at night. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, little details about how the presentation. So the next year comes around, and we're watching, and then the leaders are coming up on 13, and there are the azaleas again. And my father tells the story again. They will use the ultraviolet lights, and then if it's going the other direction, they'll use the ice. Oh, okay, duly noted. Fast forward 12 months. Now I see the azaleas. I'm gonna bait them. I'm like, wow, look at those. How do they get there to pop on time? Well, I start laughing, and it's become this running joke at that point.
Yeah, you have to check in and talk about the azaleas. The fact that they have literal tunnels underneath the golf course to shoot up the concession so that you don't see any trucks around there or anything like that. I mean, it's
unbelievable, the drainage that they have there. And as far as the azaleas, too, they were using some cutaways there, too, Danger. They wanted to make sure that you saw
Absolutely. And for a town that was devastated just a few short months ago by a hurricane, no mention of it, no sign of it.
No mention it. No, we don't have time for your vignettes and everything else. Like, Augusta National is this make-believe land. We don't want to show you the rest of Georgia.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was I wish the other majors could take a page out of the way the Masters is presented to us, because with the limited commercial interruptions, the shorter commercial breaks, the constant action, the back and forth, the flow, all of it, it just works. It's a great product. It's one of the best sports products going year in and year out. And I mean that even if you don't play golf, even if you think golf is boring, if you're in gray, dreary Rochester on a Sunday afternoon and you have that on, you're going to be entertained. It was awesome. It was a great Sunday of golf on the Masters.
Granted, it was beautiful yesterday, too.
It wasn't bad yesterday.
It wasn't bad, getting out there and everything.
So it's Rory completing the career Grand Slam. And if you missed our conversation with Brian Koziel, the host of Tee to Green, who joined us in the 3 o'clock hour, we've got that available for you on demand wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you get your shows. Just search out the Sports Bar. You'll find it there.
Yeah. As one quick note, the Amherst final 3 games, but we'll talk to head coach Mike Leone tomorrow. Do they took their foot off the pedal here, Danger? There's nothing to play for. They are the 2nd seed. So Laval, only game this weekend. winning on Friday, and you realize, okay, we got a great goalie in Rochester. They got Primo up there.
I mean, when you pepper Laval with 41 shots, it just ain't your night if you're not getting the win there. We'll talk to Coach Leone tomorrow about that loss on Friday night and look ahead here to the stretch run for the Amerks as they get ready for the postseason as the 2 seed. And another bit of interesting news here from Brian, who joined us earlier. His take that if you're serious about changing the culture for the Buffalo Sabres as an organization, Yuri Kulik should come down to Rochester.
Bravo!
Yeah,
I thought he was
going
to say 0, and Brian, I hope, is hearing chatter on this because Kulik coming down, that's what should happen. But this is an organization that, well, it's all about development, and we'd rather give those top line minutes to Konstas Helenius. Okay, who's going to be a good player, but don't you want to win now? Isn't that what development is all about? What has Yuri Kulik done that we would say, no, he can't be sent back to Rochester?
Yeah. Best way to develop a player? Win. How about that? That would be a good way to develop a player. Let's win, and let's kind of get a culture of winning that starts here that you would hope could transfer up to the parent club.
Wouldn't you want him getting more playoff games, Danger? Not getting any up in Buffalo, I'll tell you that.
Hell yeah. I mean, when Brian said that, music to my ears. My ears perked up. I got really excited. I'm like, God, I hope that happens. Because if he comes here, there's a chance that he would dominate. There's a chance that he would play at a different level than we've seen in Rochester from Yuri Kulik because of all of the experience that he got this year in Buffalo.
Yeah, look, when we have Mike Leone on, he doesn't make those decisions. I'm
Correct.
sure he would love to have him back. But the idea that, hey, it's all about development and you're here to serve at the pleasure of the Buffalo Sabres and blah, 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 blah. Well, it ain't effing working up in Buffalo, all right? So maybe listen to things down here, right?
I also think that one of the notes he made about the Amerks when we talked to Brian earlier, the idea that UPL hasn't really seen a lot of ice time here down the stretch. What does that mean for his future? And have the Sabres already decided that Devin Levi will be their guy next year going into the season?
Yeah, now there's a team that doesn't have anything to play for. You would figure, okay, we're paying UPL all this money. Let's hopefully let him figure this out. And Lindy Ruff is just trying to win games like Reimer. It's like, yeah, just a guy.
A little interesting tactic here down the stretch for the Buffalo Sabres. We appreciate Brian. We appreciate RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys, who also stopped by. And again, you can get those conversations wherever you get your podcasts. If you missed them earlier, or in the free-to-download Odyssey app, just with go back with chapters, you can listen to any part of the show that you may have missed.
We have a new Netflix coming up in shots here, documentary coming out, Danger.
I'll add it to the list. Ooh. Confession. I actually got to something that was on the list.
You're kidding.
No, it's not sports related, so please forgive me.
Have I seen this?
I think so. I think you told me to watch it.
Severance?
Maybe maybe it wasn't you that told me to watch it. Did you tell me to watch the Yacht Rock documentary?
Yes.
I watched it.
How? You of all people.
I know.
Didn't you love that? You're programming music stations. Granted, it's not Yacht Rock music stations. I'll add it to the list. Did you not come away entertained?
It was fun. I liked
Donald Fagen.
I liked Fagen at the end, basically hanging up on the director of the doc because he called it Yacht Rock and he hates the term so much. He basically tells him to F off. Sorry, didn't mean to spoil it for you if you haven't watched it. But yeah, it was a fun watch. It was a fun watch. What I learned was Toto or gods. That's basically what I learned. Like Toto they had their fingers in a little bit of everything, including some of the most influential and greatest reviewed and received albums of all time.
Yeah, like their music was just so good that you could write lyrics to Africa, which make no sense whatsoever.
The musicianship and the artistry of these bands, fantastic. And yeah, you're right. I mean, like nonsensical lyrics that they still get made fun of for today, but it doesn't matter because they were so good at just great musicians and unbelievable at their craft. It was fun. You know what? Here's how you get me to watch something that's on the list.
Don't tell you about it.
No. Get my kids invested. Because my daughter watched it on a flight, and she's like, Dad, you would love this. I'm like, I know I would. She's like, why don't we watch it? I'm like, okay, let's watch it. And I watched it with her, and it was fantastic. Yeah. So we get a little memory there. Now I've got her as invested in Yacht Rock as I am. She's she's deep. She's deep into it. She's looking at charts. She's trying to figure out if something qualifies as yacht rock or if it's not yacht rock. Hall & Oates? Nope, not yacht rock. By definition, not yacht rock. Not enough jazz in it. Yeah, definitely got some R&B influence. Not enough jazz. So we're debating that.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you about what they got coming up here. It is sports related. I honestly don't know if you'd be like, oh yeah, I'm in on this, but I don't know if Danger would be. NBA season's over for some. We've got firings today, and this story in Sacramento, Danger. If I give you the headline, you'd be like, oh come on, what are they doing? They're overreacting. And well, there's a little more to it. How we have the plates here in Rochester.
Sure.
Every team has an alter ego. The AAA team in Sacramento did something that went totally wrong. We'll explain.
Okay, we'll get to that and more next. A round of shots coming up. And don't forget about last call. You can have the final word in the sports bar this afternoon when you join us at 585-866-4FAN, 866-4326.
To become your personal sports commentator, The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Rory McIlroy completing the Grand Slam, winning his first green jacket.
It's a dream come true. I've dreamt about that moment for as long as I can remember. Just a complete roller coaster of a day. It's been 14 long years, but thankfully I got the job done.
All the action in the major leagues under the lights tonight. The Yankees sending Cookie Carrasco to the mound against Kansas City. The Mets opening up the series in Minnesota. As they typically are on a Monday, the Red Wings are off today. They begin a series tomorrow at home against Worcester. Just 3 games left in the Rochester American season. They're already locked in as the 2 seed. Wednesday night, Cleveland comes to town. The Phoenix Suns today firing head coach Mike Budenholzer. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The best local sports talk in the Flower City. One Bills Live in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. Weekday afternoons on The Fan Rochester.
Happy hour continues on The Fan. You're in the sports bar. Danger and Battaglia ready to serve up a round of shots.
Before we do that, I committed a radio foul here because this is going back here a couple of segments where I said, hey, last time there were 3 running backs taken in the first round.
Oh, we didn't pay off on the tees.
I know. I'm going to blame the producer on that one because the producer should remind me.
All right, so in case you're just joining us here and you want to know what we're talking about, they set the over-under for running backs taken in the first round in the 2025 draft at 2.5. Gino's taking the under on that. Last year, 0 running backs taken in the first draft.
Right, so you're figuring, hey, all you need is 1 at the end, but is anybody going to – granted, Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the end, but Philadelphia wouldn't. I can't imagine Kansas City, but the last time it happened – 2018. Okay, I know you know one of the running backs from 2018.
I'm trying to remember. The Saquon was in that one.
Correct,
right?
number 2 overall.
Was that the year that they took Edwards-Helaire?
No,
that was later.
The other 2 guys, one from the NFC, one from the AFC. The guy from the NFC is somebody you were always perpetually. I'm not saying you, in general. Fantasy. I'm ready for this guy. I'm ready for this guy, and it never quite happened.
Was it Najee?
No, NFC.
Oh, I'm sorry, NFC.
Believe then he had another stop in Philadelphia. It just didn't happen there either.
Not Miles Sanders. That would have been after Saquon. I mean, I'm racking my brain here trying to come up with it. Was it
NFC West?
NFC West running back.
First round. Never fulfilled.
Oh, it was Seattle. It was
yes.
Penny, Rashad Penny.
Yes.
Rashad Penny.
Ding, ding.
Yep.
Last one was a Patriot running back. The Patriots spent a first-round pick on a running back.
Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
No.
I know. I just wanted to say Ben Jarvis Green Ellis.
Do you remember who it was, though?
The Patriots took a running back in the first round.
Isn't that weird?
And he must have been an absolute bust.
They ended up trading him or releasing him at some point.
Because they have Ramondre now, but he's only been in the league for a few years. Who was before Ramondre? Why am I blanking?
Sony Michel.
Oh, right, from Georgia.
Sony Michel. So the point being, and this is true.
God, Sony Michel was a first-round pick.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about that guy.
No, and Rashad Penny, being the guy who never lived up to the promise, careful with your first-round running back standard.
You get an injury. Both Michel and Penny just couldn't stay on the field, right? Michel, I want to say Michel had the Achilles injuries.
Yes.
And Penny just was always injured in Seattle, and hasn't done anything as a pro, which is kind of a shame because you're right. There was always the promise of Rashad Penny, and it never materialized.
I think we've all owned Rashad Penny at some point. The Phoenix Suns have a new owner. You don't have any patience for missing the playoffs, which they did. The team today firing head coach Mike Budenholzer. He had just wrapped up year number 1. Phoenix fading down the stretch. They went 10-18 after the All-Star break. That was the 3rd worst defensive team in the league as well. New Orleans also firing their VP head of basketball operations, David Griffin. He goes back making the decision 6 years down there.
So I wonder if they see, they have to see teams like Houston, teams like Detroit, be able to kind of like turn it around. Like Detroit is fun and young, but it starts with who you got there as far as your coach, right? And Budenholzer, although he's got an NBA title under his belt, I don't know, maybe he and KD don't see eye to eye. Just a hard thing to.
What happened to Devin Booker? It's like Devin
That's a great
Booker,
question.
Devin Booker came onto the scene. It's the pandemic. It's the bubble, and we're like, wow, that team is really, really going to be
He's
good.
a fun player.
Yeah, and well, like now, I see these stories like, oh my gosh, where will KD play? Now,
Well, if you have KD and Devin Booker, chances are you should be in the postseason.
Correct.
So that seems justifiable to me, even though I didn't like when Budenholzer was let go by Milwaukee because that felt like an assassination. It felt like Giannis, talked about how the season wasn't a failure when they got bounced by the 8 seed Miami, and 2 days later they fired their coach. Like, okay, what does failure look like then if that wasn't a failure? If losing to the 8 seed in the first round wasn't a failure and you fire your coach, what is failure? I don't know. I think that was a failure of the season.
This is not a failure.
No, it was a failure.
Do you get a promotion every year? Yes or no? Yes or no? Just a refresher as to how the NBA play-in tournament this week works. By the way, it starts tomorrow night. Not a lot of time off here. The 7-8 matchup. Well, the winner of that game gets in. In the 9-10 matchup, the winner doesn't get in right away. The loser's out. The winner of that 9-10 matchup then faces the loser of 7-8, and that would be the final team to get in.
Fun!
Tomorrow night, the 7-8 matchup in the East has Orlando and Atlanta, but we'll watch anyways, followed by Memphis and Golden State. Now, that's how loaded the West is. The 9-10 matchups Wednesday have Miami and Chicago in the East, Dallas and Sacramento in the West.
It's funny, man, because if you're a play-in team now, you kind of get dubbed as like a play. Like there are teams that you just rattle off. And like I only see them as play-in teams. Like Chicago is always a play-in team. I can't view them as anything. They're not serious to me as a playoff contender because they're just playoff level. I hate that Miami is there, but with no Jimmy Butler, I think Miami is there. And even when Butler was there,
yeah, but the team that has Jimmy Butler,
they're also a play-in team. You're right. I think that'll be fun. I kind of like the play-in tournament, even though these are teams that don't have any chance. Well, Golden State, who knows? But I don't think there's any chance of any of these teams going on any kind of serious run.
All right. The question I put to you is this new Netflix documentary, sports related. I will tell you some of the details. Honestly, don't know if it's, I'll add it to the list, or, I'll add it to the list, okay? The Fall of Favre.
Oh,
and when I say the fall, I don't mean autumn. The Fall of Favre will tell the story of, well, amongst other things, Brett Favre's pursuit of a Jets employee named Jen Sturger and his involvement in the Mississippi welfare case. One of the things pointed out here that once his dad passed in 2003, no one in Green Bay ever said no to Favre. The Fall of Favre debuts May 20th.
Nah.
I thought for sure, like you being a Bears fan, would love to see.
No, because I hate the guy. I mean, what's it going to tell me? He's a bad guy. I already know he's a bad guy. If he did all the things that he's being alleged of doing, he's a bad guy. I'm not interested. I don't want to watch Netflix or a show to see people that bring me down. I want to see things that are going to bring me up.
This was like at the peak of Deadspin, right? The whole Jen Sturger story.
Man.
Because that was one of those where, like, you clicked on it and I'm like, whoa, I didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't need to see that. He didn't need to send that.
No.
He's just a bad guy. And, probably like one of these athletes, if he's never hearing the word no while he's in Green Bay after his dad dies, he's an entitled athlete who thinks he can walk on water, do whatever he wants, however he wants to do it. What he did, or what he's alleged to have done to the people of Mississippi is disgusting.
He should be in.
It's disgusting. So, no, I'm not interested in seeing his fall. What are you going to tell me that I don't already know? That he took painkillers to the point of not knowing what he was doing? Is that his excuse? Oh, I was so high, I hopped up on painkillers. I didn't know what I was doing most days. I don't care, man. You're a bad guy. Bad guy. Not interested. My brother-in-law, if he was hearing this right now, blah, 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 he'd be big Favre guy. Huge Favre guy.
Yeah, but like at some point, even your idols, like the Mississippi welfare case, how on
you can't
any
defend
level,
that.
You can't defend that.
You cannot defend that. He's a bad guy. And I don't have any.
He would defend it. Well, shucks, I just didn't know.
No sympathy. No sympathy. Your ignorance is not a defense. No sympathy.
Let the hype begin for the World Baseball Classic that's returning in March. It's a 3-year cycle for this. Japan won it in 23. This time around, it's the United States that's going to have a stronger lineup. How do we know? Well, today they named their captain.
Arson Judge?
Not Arson Judge, but Aaron Judge. You know, if you'd be nice, Danger, like somebody would let it go.
No, I'm not going to let it go. From now on, he's Arson Judge, just so we can. Maybe it'll get back to him sometime. And he can be, I'm done with the fan, Rochester. I'm never coming back on. This whole thing has been a disaster. I can't believe it. You don't know who we're talking about. That would be John Heyman from his time on WFAN with our colleague there, Keith.
Keith McMillan, KM the AM.
Yeah.
Is the name of the show.
Can't believe it.
The World Baseball Classic, games taking place in Houston, Miami, Tokyo, and San Juan. The semifinal and the final will be in Miami again. That is coming up in March.
I mean, as much as I want to believe that the U.S. will have a stronger lineup, can we really say that? Because we have a whole baseball season to go in front of us, and who knows what the world looks like in spring. The way pitchers fell last year, the way Cubs lost their ace and Justin Steele. Like, I don't know.
That's what I was thinking. Wow, that was a really one-year thing where we didn't have, that was your team.
Maybe it's happening again. Yeah. I don't want to wish that on anybody. I hope your team stays healthy. I'm a little bit nervous. The Cubs have a nice little start here, but I'm a little bit nervous when you lose your ace at this point of the season. I mean, if you're a GM and you don't have a contract beyond this year, you go out and you trade for an ace, right? What do you have to lose? Go trade for an ace.
Danger, in the spirit of no one cares when you're right, the Dodgers suffered their 6th loss last night.
I know, and I poured one out because the dream of a 157-win season came to an end. It came to an end at the hands of my Cubs, so I'll accept it. We'll take it. And I think I'm just going to throw it out there. I think the Dodgers are going to be okay. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not as into baseball as a lot of people, but I think the Dodgers are going to be okay.
They're in 3rd place right now.
With their $9.7 trillion payroll, I think the Dodgers will find a way into the postseason.
Hockey, are we ready for the postseason? Yes, no? Like, let's go. Missing the postseason in hockey, though. The Bruins are out. The Flyers are out. The Rangers are out. So this is the final week behind the mic for the legendary Sam Rosen, who is retiring. And the announcements are made. Taking over for Sam Rosen is going to be the new voice of the Rangers, Kenny Albert. That's Marv Albert's son, Danger, not his brother.
Oh, no, they're brothers. Kenny Albert, Marv Albert.
No.
It's his little brother.
It's not his little brother.
It's not his son. Kenny Albert's like Marv's age. He's just a few years younger. He's been doing it as long as Marv, and you can't tell me that's not his brother. That's his brother. It's not his son.
I think his brother's name is Al Albert.
Al Albert also did sports too, did he not?
Yes, he did.
Right. So the three of them have done sports our entire life, and Kenny is just the little brother of Al and Marv. Not his son. You can't tell me that is his son. To answer your question, I'm not ready for the postseason, Gino. I am absolute, and I wonder if casual hockey fans or casual sports fans are as into the postseason as most of us are. When you had what we had with the Four Nations, and we had that hockey had a moment in February, and that moment was so fleeting. I feel like they didn't really capitalize on a moment. And if you could tell me that the postseason will have the same level of intensity that we saw at moments of the Four Nations, then I think everybody would sign up for it. But we know that there's a heightened level of intensity with the Stanley Cup playoffs. But I don't know that you're going to see that level of intensity. By intensity, I'm really saying violence. I just want more. I want more
old-time hockey.
I want some old-time hockey. I mean, that's what I'm really kind of hoping for. I always hope for it in the postseason, and it always delivers on some level. And depending on how these, first-round matchups end up, I think it's going to be. It'll be what it always is. Another great sports product for us to consume.
Montreal, Washington will be interesting. It looks like the Sens and Leafs will line up, which has Dandelion flipped up. Do you already see what we're getting again in the West? Kings and Oilers again.
Yeah.
Which this is what Gary Bettman wants, I guess, with this alignment. But finally, the AAA team in Sacramento. So let me pause here. Even though you have the Athletics playing, you also still have the Giants AAA team. So there's like 162 games or whatever still playing in this park. So you have the actual AAA team in that same ballpark. They're called the River Cats, Danger, and they came up with a new alter ego identity, just like how the Wings did this with the plates and whatnot, but they abandoned the new alter ego identity just a day after unveiling the new uniform. Local leaders called for the team to drop the name Gold Diggers, saying it was misogynistic.
Oh, okay. All right.
Somebody's
been listening to Kanye West, I see.
It goes a little. If you're just reading the headline, like, okay, what are we digging for? Well, while the new uniform's in black and gold, showing a little minor guy, it fits with the gold rush, right?
Yep.
Well, like a lot of things in this world, Danger, video tells a different story. The official video, I shouldn't laugh at this, the official video released by the team, which has since been pulled down, there are skits of attractive women where their eyes turn to a cartoon dollar sign, one of which an attractive woman walking out of a jewelry store with an old man.
Yeah. That's taking something that could have worked and really kind of twisting it. That's on them. I don't like that.
It's if you do this like on a SNL skit, yes.
Right.
You didn't. No one would have thought anything of it. Even
you could have been the Gold Diggers.
Right.
That's just a fun little nickname with your old miner and his plaid and his cowboy hat. There's gold up in them there hills. And yeah, you could have some fun with it. But no, you have to take it the route of where we all kind of take it, which is, okay, hard to defend.
Can you do that impression again?
There's gold up in them there hills. Go ahead, Dan DeLorean. Feel free to use that in tomorrow's Open. So the Gold Diggers will not happen for the River Cats. But can we make the A's the Gold Diggers for a day while they're playing?
Yes.
In the stadium that houses the River Cats? That's what I really want to see.
Yeah, the A's. The Mets had a player that went down, Jose Siri, and they bring out the injury cart, which you never want. Cart runs out of gas, so they have to
minor league baseball.
Minor
league ballpark, minor league baseball. That's what you get. Appreciate everybody listening this afternoon. The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We're back again tomorrow at 3. Our Tuesday shows are always fun. We talk Buffalo Bills with Matt Perino from the Syracuse Post-Standard, syracuse.com. And Amerks head coach Mike Leone stops by the Sports Bar tomorrow afternoon at 4:25, as he does every Tuesday. If you missed RJ Ochoa blogging the boys, talking the Masters, Brian Cozio, the host of Tee to Green, both conversations available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search out the Sports Bar or listen in the free-to-download Odyssey app. You can go back and hear any part of the show that you may have missed for the next 24 hours. JR Sport Brief next on the Fan Rochester. Have a great night.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. On 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester. Bills, Sabres, Amerks, all on your favorite sports.